The Sunday Telegraph leads with Labour backs away from 2030 ban on new petrol cars. The Sunday Times has go it alone and let Ukraine fire missiles, PM told. Sunday Express has pensioners £1,000 worse off under Labour. And the Mail on Sunday has assisted dying bill set to be rushed into law. The Observer has alarm grows over possible Iran-Russia nuclear deal. And finally, the Daily Star, TV Lee, my bog was haunted by a ghost. And those were your front pages. That's all we have time for. Thank you to Leo Kearse and Steve N. Allen. Josh Howie will be here tomorrow with Kerry Marks and Joe Sutherland at 11 p.m. If you're watching at 5 a.m, please stay tuned for breakfast. Good night.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got a bit of a mix in the weather for this weekend. Sunny spells, blustery showers, also some cloud and some outbreaks of rain, but lots of fine weather around too. And the reason for this mix is that we've got high pressure to the south giving us those fine conditions, but we've also got a weather front that's slowly sinking its way southeastwards across the country, bringing us that cloud and rain. Now, as we head into this evening, that cloud and rain will slowly move its way into northern areas. And behind it, we've got plenty of blustery showers moving their way into western parts of Scotland. But to the far south, that's where it's going to be clear and dry and feeling quite chilly as soon as the sun goes down tonight. May even see a little bit of grass frost in rural spots down to the south. So to start Sunday then, as I say, plenty of showers moving their way into western and northern parts of Scotland, across Northern Ireland and just into the Scottish borders. A fairly cloudy start that will break up as we head through the day. Cloud and outbreaks of rain and drizzle, which could be a touch heavy over hills across northern areas of England and Wales. But as I say, across the south after a chilly night, that is going to make it feel cold on Sunday to begin with. Through the day, though, things are going to warm up. Where we have this band of cloud, rain and drizzle, that may just linger on for a time. So quite a damp day for some northern areas of England and Wales. Sunny spells and blustery showers through into Scotland. Some of these could be heavy with some hail and thunder. But once again, down to the south and southeast, that's where they'll hold on to the warmer weather and largely dry as well. Now, for the start of the new week, we'll start to see high pressure taking hold, which means for most of the country, largely fine and dry conditions, plenty of sunny spells around. You might just see a build of high cloud in the northwest with a weather front down out into the Atlantic. And that high pressure does hold on, which means plenty of fine and settled weather for the beginning of next week.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates.
You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday,
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Pensioners, I'm afraid, lead the headlines again today, and it's not good news because apparently they could be left £1,000 worse off this winter.
Labour is now reportedly planning to axe the single person's 25% discount on council tax in a move branded the widow's tax.
And that's leaving lots of pensioners reeling at the news, many wondering, of course, how they're going to survive this winter.
The government also forced to defend their early prison release scheme after a man allegedly sexually assaulted a woman on the same day that he was freed.
Ministers back down on their petrol car ban, with reports that the sale of hybrid vehicles will be extended now until 2035.
The Lib Dem conference continues in Brighton with calls to extend free school meals to all children living in poverty. Education spokesperson Munira Wilson explains more on Breakfast this morning.
And it's happy birthday to Prince Harry, who turns the big 4-0 today. We reflect on his achievements and ask whether it really is time to welcome him back into the royal fold.
And have you noticed that it's well and truly autumn now? It's certainly cold, isn't it, outside? We're going to be finding out if there's any hope of a final hint of summer before coat season well and truly begins. Let's hope so.
Good morning. A first defeat for Liverpool manager Arne Slot brings an end to his honeymoon as Nottingham Forest win at Anfield for the first time since man landed on the moon. Elsewhere, there were wins for Manchester City, Manchester United and Chelsea. We look ahead to today's North London derby.
Hello, good morning. Well, we have some heavy showers in the forecast and also some longer spells of rain. But there's also some dry and settled weather around with some warm, sunny spells. So if you want to find out where, stay tuned for all your latest details.
Well, it's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Anne Diamond.
And I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Well, it's nice to be here with Ellie because last time we saw each other was in the south of France. Last weekend.
That was a nice treat, wasn't it?
Really nice. My sister's daughter, that's my niece, got married in the same chateau that you're going to get married in exactly the same weekend, but a year hence. And so you were there. What were you doing there, actually?
We came to Recce.
Oh, I see.
All the bars and restaurants and all the important things.
Yeah.
And then I texted Anne just thinking I thought you'd be too busy to see me. And then you said, come up to the chateau now.
Yeah.
And I can introduce you to your niece.
Yes, that's right.
So we came up and all your family was so lovely.
Well, they are.
And then I felt really excited because I just want a copy and paste version of your niece's wedding. It looked so good.
It was an absolutely beautiful wedding. Absolutely beautiful. And if yours is anything like it, it will be just magic.
I think if mine's half of hers, I'll be very happy.
It was magic. You've got to get the same band. The band were brilliant.
I know. So I've basically got a list now. Yeah. And your niece, we're messaging each other.
You must
on
have this,
Instagram
you
now.
must have that.
Yeah, and she's just going to send me everything, and I'll just have the same wedding.
And of course, Anne got your discount as well, didn't she?
Yeah, Anne, yes. That's a really good point.
Thankfully, thank goodness, I am the mother of boys, because I don't know how you afford a wedding like that. I just don't know how you do it.
It's all very stressful. Marvellous. And you did a reading, didn't you? So how did that go?
I did a reading. That was all right. Yes, it was good. Everybody agreed afterwards it was all right. And then
she's being humble.
We all sat round the campfire later in the evening. There was we built a lovely fire and everybody was sitting around. And I said, well, this is the reading that I might have done, because there were a couple of readings. Do you remember? I read them to you.
We were reading
I tried them out on Ellie. Yeah. A couple were a bit naughty. And everybody said, no, you chose the right one. You really did. That you shouldn't have. Yeah. So that was all right. And it got everybody comparing poems that they'd learned at school and things like that. And with, a glass of wine and a roaring log fire in the Mediterranean. Oh, it was just gorgeous.
It was amazing.
Everybody loved it.
It was amazing.
But I tell you how important, I didn't realise how important the band is to making the magic of a wedding.
I think it's one of the most important things.
Well, it clearly is. They played all the right music, and and such a variety of music that it appealed to all ages there. And then when things got a little bit more, people left their dinner plates and raucous is the word. The band were going in and out of people. The violinist was coming on, and the guitarist was coming up and sitting on the table and playing. It was brilliant.
Did you have any napkins over there?
Yeah, all of that.
Oh, I love that when that happens.
Did it make you look forward to your big day?
Yes, I'm very excited.
More relaxed about
it? Very excited. Also stressed. Also stressed. I feel like there's a lot to do.
That's part of it, isn't it?
Do you think?
Oh, I think so.
I feel a bit overwhelmed with how much there is to do. Andy Williams is getting married the same weekend as well, would you know?
Day.
Who's also...
We're getting married on the same day.
Next year?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
So...
With us is political commentator
Andy Williams.
Andy
How are you feeling at this point? Are you feeling stressed, overwhelmed?
I'm feeling quite relaxed. My partner's feeling less relaxed.
Yes.
And she is, in fact, we had a conversation yesterday about how we really need to get a move on with X, Y and Z.
Yes, that's what
mainly my outfit. So she's got her dress now, but I need to sort my outfit out.
Yeah. But it's going to fly by.
Yes, it will. Because everybody has to make arrangements.
But you're right, the band is so important.
Well, I didn't really understand how important until I saw a band that had got it dead right. And it was brilliant.
I'd say band and bar.
Yeah, and the food. The food was wonderful.
Do you think?
Well, it just was wonderful.
Well, I'm glad.
It's going to be wonderful.
So we're back after our lovely little reunion in the
south. We had a
France.
sojourn. Yeah, the other thing I discovered, did I say this yesterday? I can't remember, is that the south of France, we stayed on for a few extra days, and the Mistral happened. You've heard of Mistral,
we spoke about it yesterday.
The wind in the south of France. I think it's early this year, and it was such a strong wind in Marseille, you could not stand up.
Really?
There were people... We got a hotel on the sort of quayside, the marina, and people were trying to walk down the road, and you couldn't. And if you were walking the other direction with the wind behind you, you were blown over. And I've never seen or experienced a wind so strong. It was amazing.
No. Well, I'm very pleased that you're here in one piece.
Yes.
And it was
and
nice
I tell you
to
what,
see you.
The wind was blowing up a little during the wedding, only a little. And if you wear a veil, I don't know if
but I think that's the drama.
The veil was flying in the wind. It looked so dramatic.
People would pay for that, for a little wind machine.
Yes, I suppose they do.
So
that's a thing to think about.
So, yeah, I wouldn't mind...
It doesn't sound like you need it.
Yeah, perfect. It was almost like an off-site, a GB News off-site in the South of France, because Emily Carver and Patrick Christie's were down in Saint-Tropez at the same time.
Oh, darling.
All four of us were away.
Yeah, my family said, I said, this is Ellie from the telly. And they went, because they know you, because they watch you. And it took them a while to realise, because you didn't look like the Ellie on the telly.
I didn't look like Mick, because when I walked in, there were a few of them looking, and I was like, oh, it's probably because I was dressed very casually, wasn't I? I had my hair up.
Oh, she was dressed sort of French casual, you know what I mean?
No.
Really
trying to be really understated and French-like.
Saint-Tropez casual.
Yes, I think they were trying to work out who I was. But anyway, I was very excited to see you, so thanks for including me. And they were also lovely as well. And congratulations to your niece and her new husband as well. They're a lovely couple.
Yeah, they are. They are gorgeous. Let's move on to...
some work. Should we do some work?
Well, some proper work. And it's still sort of rather negative news, particularly if you're a pensioner, because it seems like there's blow upon blow, doesn't it, at the moment? And this is a further blow to pensioners, because Labour is reportedly planning to axe the 25% discount on council tax for single people. And it's become known as the widow's tax, if you like.
Well, that's after news that millions of pensioners will miss out on their winter fuel payments as the Chancellor, of course, looks to plug her £22 billion black hole in public spending.
Well, as we introduced a minute ago, political commentator Andy Williams is with us. I mean, I don't know what's going on here, but it does seem as though
like this new government doesn't like pensioners.
Well, I think over the last 15 or so years, working people, parents, students have all had to cough up, have had to pay more tax, have had to contribute to and respond to straitened times. And pensioners have been quite well protected. Let's be honest, they have. If you look at the triple lock, I mean, that guarantees that the state pension will rise quite significantly every year. And I'm afraid, I don't want to sound callous about it, but if you look at it, even the poorest pensioners will get a pay rise next year of £160, even after the winter fuel allowance is taken away, because the state pension is going up by £460 a year. So I don't buy this line that there's an attack on pensioners. Actually, I think Labour's looking at, we have difficult choices to make about the public finances, and pensioners are going to have to stand some of that cost.
But it seems as though they are willing to put pensioners' health at risk with this as well. I mean, Labour's own analysis in 2017 said that they predicted cutting winter fuel payments could kill 4,000 people. People can't believe this is now coming from a Labour government.
Well, it's not a great place to be, and I don't think Labour would like to do this in an ideal world, but it is going to be means tested. I mean, if you look at Age UK, who are running a big campaign against cuts to the winter fuel payment, they say that 2 million people will be adversely affected. That means that 8 million people are getting winter fuel payments every year and don't need it. So I think that's a good use of, it's a good policy in terms of taking that money away from people who are getting that money and don't need it. You've got 2 million people who do need to be protected. So means testing, I think, is the right way to go.
Means testing is always expensive, though, in itself.
Yeah, it is.
It requires, apparently, the form that you've got to fill in, this is why it's on the Age UK
200
website.
questions or so.
It's a big deal form for some people, and it's a heck of a thing to have to go through. You need somebody to help you, almost.
Yeah.
And means testing is expensive because it's another layer of bureaucracy and everything. And you wonder whether it really would be worth it. Of course, there are well-off pensioners who don't need it. I think we'll be hearing a bit later on in the programme from somebody who said they see it as a nice little giveaway. And they're not moaning that it's going to be taken away from them. But surely that's the minority of people.
Well, no, I think the analysis suggests that 80% of people who get the winter fuel payment literally don't need it. And therefore, that is a waste of money. That is a waste of money.
Yes.
And actually, the triple lock is giving pensioners a far above inflation pay rise, because inflation's at 2.2%, it's going up by 4.6%. So next year, the state pension will go up by £460 a year. We're talking about, for the poorest and oldest pensioners, a maximum of £300 being taken away. So from April, and I accept we have to get through the winter first, but from April, every pensioner will be much better off. So I don't quite understand where you don't see this outrage with working people's taxes going up. You don't see this outrage with parents having to pay more, with students having to pay more. And actually, pensioners have been, apart from motorists, and that's a whole other conversation, pensioners have been the most protected demographic in society for decades and decades.
But let's face it, pensioners are older people.
Yes.
And they're more vulnerable in lots of different ways. So it's not.
And that's why the poorest people need to be protected. But there are other pensioners who are not.
All right, what about the council tax, then?
Well, I'm not in favour of that. I'm massively in favour of reforming council tax. I think it's a really antiquated way of doing things. So the way that we pay council tax was decided in April 1991. That's 4 months before I was born, just ageing myself there. And, you know, it's completely outdated, needs to be looked at and reformed.
Well, Margaret Thatcher tried to reform it by calling it the poll tax.
Well, she sort of brought it in, and then it was changed, exactly. But we can't have a situation where Buckingham Palace pays less council tax than a 3-bed semi in Blackpool, which is absolutely true. However, I'm not in favour of taking it away from or changing the rules for single people because, firstly, by definition, if you're a single person in a house, you don't use the same level of services as 4 people in a home. So I'm not in favour of that.
Can we talk about Sir Keir Starmer breaching parliamentary rules by failing to declare these fancy clothes that Lord Ali had given his wife, Victoria? I mean, it's awkward for Sir Keir Starmer, isn't it? This is a man who is very vocal about Boris Johnson and his reliance on donors, and also has vowed to clear up politics and root out cronyism.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever see a Prime Minister who debased the office as much as Boris Johnson. I think Boris Johnson was a complete disgrace in almost every single respect. However, it's frustrating as somebody who is a Labour member, a Labour supporter, to see Starmer making some of these, frankly, rookie errors. Being in hock to donors is not a good look. I don't know the specifics of this case, but there've been a few sort of rumblings now about things that Starmer's done in relation to donors, and I think they just need to clamp down on it.
Yeah, the Financial Times reports this morning that between 2019, the general election, and July the 1st of this year, Sir Keir Starmer declared £76,000 worth of clothes and entertainment from donors. That's more than almost any other MP.
It's an awful lot of clothes.
It's an awful lot of clothes.
It is, and he does wear some nice suits, but no, I agree with you. I mean, it's not great, and if you're going to talk about cleaning up politics, you have to just say no. There necessarily has to be money in politics. There have to be donations. That's just the way the world works. But you have to separate yourself from anything that looks like you're taking money and gifts in exchange for influence. I think that's really a really important
This
principle.
is Lord Ally again, or
Ali.
Ali, yeah. It would appear, I mean, he had a pass into Downing Street, didn't he, which was
temporarily,
questionable. Yes, I know he doesn't have it anymore, but, you wonder what else, what other sort of exchanges were made.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible lot of clothes. I just can't quite get my head around.
Yes. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it is that question of influence, isn't it? Because some reports in the papers today that Lord Ali has more sway, has more influence over Sir Keir Starmer than some ministers.
I don't think that's the case, but again, it's more about the symbolism and the appearances, and I think a much smarter thing to do would be to just completely distance yourself from that sort of thing, and then I actually don't think Lord Ali has a great deal of influence, is my understanding, but I understand that it doesn't look great, and I think you just have to distance yourself.
I can understand that Lord Ali being generous and saying you're going to be publicly seen all over the world now. You're on the world stage. You need a decent wardrobe, and here's what...
Some nice glasses. All of
yeah,
those.
absolutely, all of that. And your wife as well. But it's not as if Keir Starmer and his wife aren't very well off already. I mean, they're very comfortably off.
They are.
They're millionaires, aren't they?
They can afford their own clothes, can't they?
I think they're pretty well off, yeah. I think that's true.
It's just, as you say, rookie error. Why you'd think entering number 10, you'd think better make sure I'm whiter than white here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, as I say, it's not a great look. But I don't think in the scheme of things, I don't think it's that important. I think if you look at some previous prime ministers and the way they behaved, I mean, I just don't think it's remotely comparable. If you look at the way Boris Johnson behaved with wallpaper and having, taking loans, brokering deals with the chair of the BBC, I mean, I think we should be. And
that happened during
maybe not all your viewers will agree with this,
but during Tony Blair's government as well.
Well, it did, and he was on Rupert Murdoch's yacht and all of those sorts of things. But I think we should be grateful that, in general, we now have a prime minister who I think is principled, is a decent person, and I do think in the long term we'll see a better and more principled politics.
OK, well, let us know what you think about that. You will certainly have a view. gbnews.com/.
You may not agree.
Andy, thank you very much. Good to see you. You may not agree.
Yeah, that was quite a brave thing to say, I think. A lot of our viewers are not going to agree with you on that.
No.
They feel sort of very let down. New government, you would expect a clean sweep, bit of breath of fresh air, and it's almost as though we're not getting that.
It's doom and gloom, isn't it? At least it feels that way.
Yeah. However, we'll cheer you up with this news.
Yes, happy birthday to Prince Harry. Today, he celebrates turning 40. Back in 1984, the Duke of Sussex was born in St Mary's Hospital, very close to here, in London, to King Charles and, of course, the late Princess Diana.
Yeah. In an 84-word statement ahead of his birthday yesterday, he said the Prince praised his 2 children, Archie and Lilibet, and spoke of the fresh perspective he's gained on life after becoming a father.
Well, the Prince will be celebrating his birthday at his Californian home with his wife, Meghan Markle, and friends. Our royal reporter, Cameron Walker, has more.
Prince Harry turns 40. The once lovable party prince, now far more polarising. The King's youngest son's made some dramatic changes to his life, moving to California with his wife Meghan, quitting his lifelong royal role. He wanted financial and personal freedom, but lost his honorary military titles and patronages in the process. A bitter blow for a man with deeply personal connections to the armed forces. The Duke of Sussex is still not speaking to his brother, the Prince of Wales, and remains estranged from his father, the King.
reports suggest that whilst Charles would be open to a return of some sort on the part of his son and daughter-in-law, William absolutely wouldn't be open to that.
The Prince served for 10 years in the British Armed Forces, including 2 tours of Afghanistan. In 2014, he founded the Invictus Games with the help of the foundation he shared at the time with Prince William and Catherine.
Sport has the ability to heal, to change lives and to save lives.
The Paralympic-style competition helps wounded, injured and sick veterans through sport and celebrated 10 years in May. The Prince also founded the charity Centre Barley in 2006, which supports young people in southern Africa.
At the heart of Centre Barley, what we've always believed is that every single young person should have a chance at a better future.
Wellchild has him as patron, helping seriously ill young people in the UK.
It allows us to shine a spotlight on the resilience and positivity that they demonstrate every single day.
The expensive fairy tale marriage to Meghan Markle in 2018 has produced 2 children, Prince Archie, who's 5, and Princess Lilibet, who's 3. This week, Prince Harry told the BBC that becoming a father of 2 incredibly kind and funny kids has given me a fresh perspective on life, as well as sharpening my focus in all my work. But tensions remain, particularly with the British press, and his popularity has plummeted, having previously been one of the most popular members of the royal family. He's launched a number of legal battles against British newspaper publishers in recent years, going against the royals' never complain, never explain motto. Meanwhile, his legal battle with the Home Office over his UK security is said to have frustrated the King. Harry's expected to celebrate his 40th birthday with family and friends today, a time to reflect on the past and look to the future. Cameron Walker, GB News.
I like seeing him at his best.
Me
It
too.
reminds you of how much we miss him, I think.
Makes me feel sad, though, as well.
Exactly, yeah. We're joined now by royal and showbiz reporter Kinsey Schofield. Lovely to see you, Kinsey. I wonder, in that 84-word statement, birthday statement, Meghan was never mentioned once. Don't you find that odd?
Well, Anne, you went straight for the topic that's going to get me in trouble. This is what we know. This is not Meghan Markle's first marriage. Meghan has admitted herself that she's a quitter. She quit Deal or No Deal. She quit Trevor Ingleson. She quit the royal family. And she wants you to think she quit Spotify. Prince Harry has given her everything she could have ever wanted, primarily relevance. Financially, she is set because she's had 2 children with a prince. She is infamous enough to keep attracting entertainment opportunities. And some very famous people acknowledge her existence now. What is Harry focused on moving forward? I mean, he says just doing good in the world in some of the statements that he gave people over the last week. But I think it's how he can continue to be of value to a woman that historically dumps people when they are no longer useful to her. And I don't think that they're necessarily happy, because Harry and Meghan are obsessed with controlling the narrative. And despite almost daily rebuttals and literally resorting to emailing People magazine himself, the truth continues to emerge surrounding Harry and Meghan's poor leadership professionally and lack of work ethic.
I mean, when you reach a milestone birthday, like Prince Harry has reached 40 now, it is a time for reflection, isn't it? And he'll be reflecting on the past decade and what a tumultuous decade it's been for him. What do you think he'll be thinking about, those life-changing choices that he's made? So much has changed in the last 10 years for him.
I mean, Ellie, I think we've seen some of what he's been concerned about over the last few weeks. The idea that he is consulting with people in the UK about how to improve his image. I mean, obviously he is thinking about the last decade and remembering that at 30, he was celebrated, that royal rebel. You know, the trouble he got into at the time, people found gleefully entertaining. They liked that he was the black sheep. And today, you know, his polling numbers are disappointing. He does have a hard time especially in the States, being taken seriously professionally. And that's very important to both Meghan and Prince Harry. They want to be taken seriously professionally. They want to be considered an authority when it comes to mental health, when it comes to children online. But they keep, I mean, look at this Hollywood Reporter story that came out on Friday. Los Angeles sources reiterating some of the issues that we heard about in Kensington Palace. The title, Why Hollywood Keeps Quitting on Harry and Meghan. They are struggling.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, she's got a life now in the country that she wants to be in. She's got children who are a prince and princess. And she sort of has a job if she wants one. She can get jobs doing various things at the moment anyway. He doesn't seem to have any job at the moment. And just in that report that we showed there, he was good when he had a job, when he was doing really good works and when he had a role in the royal family. And he's not likely to get that role back in the short term, certainly, is he?
Yeah, and to your point, there's this story in The Sun, Harry's midwife crisis, talking about how he's Meghan's +1, and his circle of friends has been curated by Meghan. His social life seems to be more and more guided and built by her. I was trying to explain this to a friend. It's like G.I. Joe, Prince Harry, the handsome veteran, surrounded by Barbies and My Little Ponies. Every time we hear about him, he's with Oprah, he's with Ellen DeGeneres, he's with all of these makeup entrepreneurs, he's at Godmother's bookstore. He's always with Meghan and Meghan's friends, and these are all older women that are self-made entrepreneurs, incredibly powerful people, and he must be looking around feeling insecure. He didn't get there on merit. He got there because, Meghan dragged him there because he's a prince.
What do you make of these revelations in the papers in the past few weeks? Operation Bring Harry In from the Cold, that you alluded to it earlier, that Prince Harry would like to improve his image here in the UK. Reportedly, King Charles is open to him having some sort of royal role, but it's the Prince of Wales who absolutely doesn't want that. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I understand that because I often forget about some of the cruel and unnecessary things that were said about the Princess of Wales in Spare throughout some of Harry and Meghan's interviews. The idea, just watching the video we saw of the Princess of Wales, Catherine, talking about how she's no longer undergoing chemo, there was absolute love, sparks flying between the Princess of Wales and Prince William. You think about Spare, where Harry talks about how Prince William made the safe choice with Catherine, that Prince William had to find somebody that fit the mold, the cookie cutter mold, and no, people were rejecting Meghan because she was different. William is trying to protect his family. He wants to protect his wife, who's got to focus on her health. And I understand Prince William's hesitation on letting Prince Harry back in, but shockingly, there's a new poll that was conducted by the Daily Mail that does suggest that Prince Harry has gained some momentum in his quest to improve his image in the UK. And a third of Britons would support Prince Harry's returning to royal duties on a permanent basis.
Wow. Him, yes. But, do you know, whenever we put that question to our viewers, they say we'd take him back, but not her. And that is very divisive and difficult, and you can't see that happening. Or at least, if you see that happening, you're wishing upon them something that would, make them unhappy. It would be a split. And I don't think we want to see that either. It's as though he's got himself in a pickle he can't get out of.
Yeah, and they're very stubborn, both of them. Meghan would need to change the way that she treats people and improve the reputation she's built around her work ethic, which isn't great. They have a hard time following through, and I think that they need to be kinder to people, because even now in the States, these stories are coming out that they are, not the way that they communicate is absolutely unacceptable, and they continue to lose employees.
It's an unhappy situation, Kinsey, really, I suppose, but we do wish him well. I think you can't look at him and not wish him happiness, at least, but how he's going to find it, not terribly sure. No. It's great to talk to Kinsey. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people have a real soft spot in their hearts for Prince Harry. I think even now, because of him losing his mother.
There'll be a lot of people at home saying no way. And that certainly, if I know, if any of my boys said something about one of the other boys, that the sort of thing that Harry said about William and Kate in the book, they would never forgive. They won't.
Really? I don't see how they can make a way back. And that's what many of the papers are saying today. They're saying it's Prince of Wales and Prince Harry. It's completely broken. There's no way back for them because too much has been said.
Yeah, pretty
too many damaging things have been
unforgivable
said.
stuff. Yeah.
Okay,
well, let us know what you think. Woo, I can feel it coming in now. Thank you. Should we move on and see what other news stories are coming into the newsroom this morning?
And UEFA have banned the England football team from the first Euro, so they could do at least. It is hosted in a generation if Sir Keir Starmer moves ahead with plans for a men's football regulator. The Euro 2028 tournament is due to take place across the United Kingdom as well as in the Republic of Ireland. But plans could be in jeopardy as UEFA's General Secretary warns against government interference in the sport.
Saturday night saw classical music fans celebrating the last night of the proms in London, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. After some concert goers, well, they were waving their EU flags, confiscated by security. And that's after the Royal Albert Hall released guidance banning flags, including those related to protest, from the patriotic proms finale.
The second day of the Lib Dem party conference gets underway this morning. Day one featured the cost of living, defence and veterans, and crucially, the Lib Dems' plan to fix the NHS. The party leader, Sir Ed Davey, is due to speak after the Lib Dems' historic success at the general election.
Yeah, yesterday afternoon, he arrived at the conference in a rather unconventional way.
Oh, goodness.
Yes. He rode a jet ski to the venue in Brighton. Well, why not? It's the sort of thing he did right through the election. It worked well for him then.
Can't keep him off the water.
No. I don't blame him. I'd love to have a go at that. Yeah, he really went for it during the election campaign, didn't he?
Yeah, clearly sticking to the
developed
theme.
a taste for it, yeah. Let's see if the weather is conducive, though, to that sort of thing. Here's Honor Chiswick.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got quite a mix in the weather for the second half of the weekend, some sunny spells and showers, but also some cloud and some outbreaks of rain. But there'll also be plenty of fine and dry, settled weather across the south of the country today. So after a cold start, things will be warming up across the south and southeast and plenty of dry weather and some sunny spells. Across northern parts of Wales and northern England, though, a cloudier day with some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. And across Scotland, plenty of sunny spells, but also blustery showers too. And these could be heavy with some hail and thunder mixed in there too. Now, as we head into the evening, that band of cloud and rain will still continue to slowly sink its way towards the southeast of the country. But across Scotland, well, we'll see those showers during the day. They will eventually ease away and become mainly confined to coastal areas. Across Northern Ireland, the Scottish borders and parts of northern England, we'll see some late evening sunny spells before the sun does go down. But plenty of clouds still across Wales, moving into the Midlands with still those outbreaks of rain and drizzle, and fairly cloudy to the south and southeast too. Now through into Sunday evening, we will eventually see that rain and drizzle to the south ease away, but there'll be plenty of cloud here. But across the northern areas, parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, we'll see a few more clear spells, much lighter winds too, so it is going to be turning quite cold here. May even see some isolated patches of mist and fog, particularly in rural areas. But to the south, that's where it's going to feel a little bit milder under those cloudier skies. Now for Monday, high pressure will begin to build across the country, which means plenty of fine, dry, settled conditions across the country. And where you catch the sunshine, it is going to be feeling rather pleasant and warm, particularly in those lighter winds. So generally highs of around 21 Celsius down in the southeast, but to the north, highs of 17, possibly 18 degrees.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Time for the Great British Giveaway and your chance to win the equivalent of having an extra £3,000 in your bank account each month for the next year. That's a whopping £36,000 in tax-free cash. Here's how you can make it yours.
This is your chance. Good luck.
Still to come, Liverpool's unbeaten record in the Premier League is gone, marking the end of their honeymoon period. Aidan McGee will tell us all about it next.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
OK, so Aidan is here to explain the sport to us, because I'm not sure I know what's going on.
Yes, you do.
Well, I
You always know.
Liverpool's honeymoon is over.
Yes, indeed. Well, look, they've got a new manager taking over from Jurgen Klopp, Arne Slot. He had 3 out of 3 wins in his opening month of the season. So it looks as if they were going to make a... Yeah, I'd say so. That was a fair way of putting it. But then Nottingham Forest comes to town. They've not won at Anfield, Ellie, since 1969, the year... He talked about honeymoon. This is the year the man landed on the moon, Neil Armstrong. And so they go and win there. I was thinking yesterday, I can't remember any time in my life when Nottingham Forest had won at Anfield. So I went and checked it, and somebody already had.
Yeah.
1969, goodness me. It's, in fact, I mean, look, they haven't played each other. They didn't play each other for about 25 years because they were in different divisions. But it's just amazing how these clubs build up these kind of psychological barriers towards winning at certain grounds. You know, I mean, they've played there plenty of times before that. I think it was 39 visits in total, and they hadn't managed a single victory. But that was a great win for them yesterday at Forest. They did it with 18 minutes to go. And Arne Slot got a little bit of a rude awakening in terms of, you know, he looks like a home banker. You look like there's a team coming to you that they're gonna roll over for you. But it just doesn't work like that in the Premier League.
No.
And you know what? When you lose a game, Anne, with Manchester City achieving such high consistency levels, I mean, you can go through a season now and not win the Premier League, even though you've only lost 2 matches out of 38. That's 1 down for Liverpool already. There aren't many. There's much scope now for mistakes, not much margin for error, so they'll be ruining that one. I want to talk to you about Manchester United as well.
Yeah, and a ketchup bottle.
Yeah, I know. It took me a while to understand.
Tomato ketchup. What is it all
Well,
about?
he's a bit of a Comical Alley sort of character. Do you remember Comical Alley, the guy who was back here 20 years ago during the Gulf War?
Yes.
He was saying...
He was a bad guy.
Yeah, I know he's a bad guy, yeah, but I'm talking about his quotes. He'd say everything was fine, gaslighting when everything wasn't. Well, He's a bit like that, Erik Ten Hag. He sees things that other supporters don't see. He'll make light of a situation which is quite bad. But this quote yesterday, he said, I mean, the English isn't perfect, but he said, once a striker was talking about a ketchup bottle, once it's going, it's coming more. And so what he's talking about is Marcus Rashford scored his first goal since March, and he's saying that now he's scored one goal. You know when you tip up the ketchup bottle, you get a small blob, don't you? And then hopefully a deluge will follow.
Yes, a deluge.
Exactly. I'm not here. What's your favourite sauce, by the way? Do you have a favourite one?
Garlic mayo.
Garlic mayo.
No, ketchup probably goes on most things and enhances.
Well, I mix the ketchup with the mayonnaise to make a sort of Mary Rose sauce,
that's
that
nice.
kind of thing. I should just buy Mary Rose sauce, really, actually, shouldn't I? But nonetheless, Man United won down at Southampton, so great for them. That's 2 wins and 2 defeats for them. Manchester City continuing a perfect run as well, 4 wins out of 4. Erling Haaland disappointed at the end because he didn't get his 3rd hat-trick in a row.
It's tough.
But he's got he's got 9 goals so far in the season. So, look, a big day of Premier League action yesterday, 8 matches in total. It's quite odd, really. You normally see it sort of broken up over a number of days. We've got... I want to talk about Everton as well, because 2 weeks ago I told you about when they were 2-0 up with 3 minutes to go. And they lost 3-2 at home to Bournemouth. They did it again yesterday.
And a bit later on, when you come back, could you explain the headline about UEFA and the...
Football regulator.
That's it. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Look, is
it a long explanation? Because we'll keep it till next hour. Because I didn't understand the headline when I read it out.
We'll talk about it later on, but it ties in with the Man City charges we talked about. The Premier League wants to be seen to be hitting one of their own really hard, just to show that a regulator isn't really needed. Now, we know there's going to be a regulator.
They don't want a regulator.
They don't want a regulator. That's the last thing they want.
Starmer does.
He does. Look, he's not the only one. Lots of people in football want it as well.
And he's a football fan, isn't he?
Michael Porcello said to me on this very desk a few months ago, he said, what possible example, Aidan, could they be thinking of a regulator working effectively in this country as the example, the embodiment of how a regulator should work? And neither of us, scratching our head, could think of one. I can think of lots of bad regulators who don't do their job, but it comes down to teeth. And so if the Premier League can be proved or to be shown to dealing with on their own, in-house, we don't need anyone else looking into our business, then it will maybe limit the scope, the powers they have. So I'm happy to go into it later in the hour.
Yeah. OK,
Fabulous.
Beginning to understand it a bit more now.
And we can also discuss the North London derby, can't we, which is later on this afternoon.
Tickets are going for an absolute premium at the moment.
Yeah, I bet they are. That's all kicking off at 2 p.m, isn't it?
Yes, it is indeed.
I could do your job, Aidan.
I wonder.
Don't discourage viewers.
That's all I know, actually. That's all I've got for you.
OK, well, do stick with us, because in a couple of moments we'll be going right through the newspapers.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
A window cleaner is battling to prove he has the only portrait of William Shakespeare made in his lifetime.
Yes, so owner Stephen Wadlow has been trying to validate the painting for years. He's had it x-rayed, he's had it analysed by experts, he's had it scientifically dated back to 1595 when the playwright was 31 years old. If it is the Bard, it could be worth north of £200 million.
Steve, welcome to GB News. First of all, just explain how you came to have this painting in your possession.
It was sat there all my lifetime, sort of thing, while I was growing up, above the television in the corner. It was only back about 12 years ago that a visitor, she said, I think it looks like William Shakespeare, or, I like your copy of William Shakespeare, and was shocked to see it was an original painting. So it was only then that I started researching, and the different institutions have helped with the x-rays and all the rest of it. But then, is it actually Shakespeare? Well, all the facial comparisons, technology, everything like that, all matches with the Droschau, which is the only known 2D image of Shakespeare. And who do you go to find that out?
There's a suggestion in the Sun's write-up of this story that you've been struggling to be heard in the academic world, the lofty art world. It's all a bit snooty. It's about who you know, and you're a tradesman.
Yes. That is definitely true in some avenues, but then I have to say, and it's lovely to be able to have this opportunity to say it, there's other people in that world that have been fabulous. It's taken a long time to sort of get listened to. We want the discussion out there because all the evidence that we've got indicates that this really should be discussed.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Righty-ho, it's newspaper time, and we've got some time today, so you'll be very pleased. We've got Tom Slater with us and Scarlett Maguire. Are we going to go through the front pages first? We might have a look at the front pages. They're all a bit different today. So here we go. The Times first, Sunday Times, reporting on Sir Keir Starmer being advised to push on with plans to let Ukraine fire British missiles into Russia. That's despite not having had an agreement with America.
The Mail on Sunday leads on plans to reportedly rush the assisted dying bill through Parliament.
The Observer leads with growing concern over a possible Iran-Russia nuclear deal.
The Sunday Express says pensioners £1,000 worse off under Labour, claiming that Britain's elderly are at breaking point.
So, yes, let's have a look inside with Tom Slater, Scarlett Maguire. We're kicking off with you, Tom, first. You've been looking at the Sunday Telegraph, which is about Labour backing away from their ban on petrol cars.
Absolutely. So in the Labour manifesto, there was a ban on all cars, as they put it, with an internal combustion engine in 2030. They've now had to relax that, but primarily or exclusively really for hybrid vehicles, so that would push the ban on those would push back to 2035. And it's an issue that the last government were running into with a lot of these targets as well, which is that they want to incentivise people to buy electric cars. They want to put in these bans so that there is a kind of certain cut-off point. But people just aren't buying them in enough numbers for that to be plausible. And it seems like actually a lot of hybrids have become particularly popular, and there's a kind of concern that we're going to have this almost cliff edge here where there's just not the demand, and also because there are those long-running concerns about charging points, range and all the rest of it.
Well, it's common sense, is it not? I mean, the infrastructure just isn't there for electric cars yet. I mean, if you have an electric car, you worry about the range constantly.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've got to do... It was quite interesting. When petrol cars came in, you know, well over a century ago, the government had to start making petrol stations so that you could get somewhere without a horse and cart. And this has got to happen. And there are more and more charging stations sort of outside one's home. I mean, I got a letter the other day. I don't have a car, so it doesn't matter, but saying that there would be lots of things on my street so that I could charge my car. But the problem is that once you get away, and I mean, I was interested, a friend of mine's got a second-hand electric car, which I thought was barely a market, but obviously is like
growing.
And he said, well, it's fine for getting a bit out. It's fine for London. Fine for getting a bit out of London,
your local
and then you have to plan, and that's the problem, isn't it? Is if you're on a motorway,
Get range anxiety.
Yes, you do.
It comes with its own mental condition.
I hired a Tesla, though.
Did you?
In France.
You're so fancy.
I hired a Tesla, and after the man had gone through the controls with me, because it's a computer screen basically, and a huge computer screen is there, and he went through everything, and I said yeah, and then he went away. And I couldn't get it to go. It wouldn't go.
Oh, no.
And it wasn't until I picked my son up from the airport, because I was still in the airport where I'd had the car. He came off his plane and he got in, and I said, you're good at computers. It won't go. And I feel such an idiot for having to go back. And he was able to... But you have to do a computer course, basically. But
great. Oh, wonderful for people like us.
But once you know how to make it go...
It's amazing.
Zoom.
Oh, lovely.
It was lovely.
It was just a lovely electric
and, you know,
car.
and because it doesn't have a combustion engine, you see, I hadn't really... Not only does it have a trunk, it has a frunk.
Right.
Yeah. So room for lots of suitcases.
Oh, well, that's
because
good.
there's no combustion engine.
And it's nice and quiet.
Isn't that weird?
And do you have to charge it?
I don't know.
What, so you drove to your chateau?
I drove to the chateau for the wedding. I drove back.
By road.
And then
And it made it. So
and I timed it perfectly so I could give it back and then catch the plane back. And I realised I'd left no time to charge it because it takes time to charge a car.
But that's the other thing, isn't it?
And I started Googling how long does it take to charge a Tesla. And they said it could be about 2.5 hours. I said, no, I missed the plane. Can't do that. So I handed it back uncharged. That was fine. They just...
And they will charge you?
Yes, they will charge it.
Oh, that's annoying.
So I have never charged an electric car yet, but I have driven one.
Oh, well, that's one more
I
step than
think
me.
looking at other people charging them, that's the easy bit, isn't it?
No, but it's time.
Yeah, but you've got to sit
No,
there.
it's time. No, that's
Yeah.
why people do it overnight.
Yeah.
Right, I mean,
But you
that's...
need 7 or 8 hours, I think, to get a full...
Yes.
And this,
Yeah.
I think, is one of the reasons why you often see people have an electric car almost as a kind of status symbol extra.
Like a second car.
Exactly, which isn't surely kind of defeating the purpose to a certain extent, but something to get around town, but not to
Maybe
actually
common sense.
drive any distances.
But it was a heck of an experience.
Well, I'm very jealous of you. I hope that we have pictures of that.
Well, actually, Ellie, when you get married, you're going to have to get an electric car
Yes, you will.
from the airport
Yeah.
to go to your
maybe
chateau.
Maybe that'll be me next
And
year.
you'll have a trunk and a frunk.
Yeah, I'll need it for all the stuff I'll be bringing, let me tell you. Scarlett, should we have a look at The Observer and the alarm growing over possible Iran-Russia nuclear deal?
This is awful, actually.
It is.
I mean, this
Scary.
is really, really scary. So we have Putin threatening us, as he has actually been threatening us for, 2 years.
It's ramped up, though, hasn't it, in the past?
Well, and it's
48
been
hours
ramped
or
up,
so.
although, as Joe Biden says, this has been going on for some time. But anyway, we've got Putin, who really understands that actually if he nukes London or Paris or Berlin, that's the end of Moscow. And talking about a deal with Iran, with a lot of people saying, well, Iran has always been there anyway. And Israel must be very scared because that's where Iran will go. I mean, they're not going to bother with us. And it's horrible. I mean, it is really, really
But we have
ghastly.
seen headlines like this before.
Oh, we have.
Haven't we?
We have. No, I'm
Iran
sorry.
doing
I do
deals.
not mean to be... I just think... You just think...
Here we go again.
God, this is just awful. And you're right. I mean, we've lived since whenever it was, 21, with Putin... 22. With
And
Putin...
always this the constant worry about whether Iran would do a deal with somebody. And I mean, you don't want to sound complacent and say it never happened.
No.
But
No, it's just that one does feel that Putin is malevolent, actually, and is interested in the opposite of world peace. I mean, he
would also
likes
be
world disorder.
Wouldn't he also be very pleased that we're worried about this headline?
He would be very pleased. So therefore, we have to say we know that it's absolute junk, and I'm really sorry, The Observer, but we hope that you're totally wrong.
Absolutely. And it's also a reminder, I think, that where Iran was concerned, there was a bit of a naivety in recent years that they wouldn't... that if we could... the West and America in particular could bring them in from the cold, that they wouldn't move towards nuclear weapons. But as soon as those sanctions were relaxed, that's certainly what seemed to happen. And now that alliance with Russia just seems to be speeding things up. So it's not to say we should be alarmist about this. I think you're absolutely right. Putin, in particular, his one bit of leverage in all of this is just trying to constantly raise the spectre of World War III.
Yes, exactly.
And we shouldn't necessarily take the bait, but it's a reminder that we just live in very different times, it feels like.
Do you remember... I mean, you know, Obama's deal with Iran was to try and bring them back in from the cold, which is actually what we'd rather have, rather than Iran feeling cross and angry and thinking, well, we can do whatever we want because they hate us anyway.
Constantly worrying about headlines like this, really.
Yes.
Because at least we'd feel we could speak to them.
Precisely.
Yeah, keep your friends close to your enemies. Tom, should we have a look at the Sunday Express, shall we? And their claim that pensioners will be £1,000 worse off under Labour.
Absolutely. So this is the combination of the winter fuel payment cuts that I know you've been covering very extensively on GB News. It's been a big issue this week.
Yeah.
But also looking down the track to the next budget, a potential ending of the 25% discount on council tax, which is being presented here as a kind of widow tax, something that, because of the single occupancy discount, that's something that could be an extra punishment for pensioners. Of course, they have maintained, Labour, that is, the triple lock on pensions, which will be some boost to them next year. But at the same time, I think Labour have really struggled to mount a defence of this policy in the light of the kind of statistics that we've been seeing. I mean, yesterday the big story was that 71% of disabled pensioners would lose out on the winter fuel payment. There's a good chunk of that who are living below the poverty line, who still won't necessarily qualify for the pension credit. And I just don't think they've been able to mount a coherent defence of it thus far. I know that I think they're just trying to make a virtue out of making tough decisions. But sometimes those might also be the bad decisions.
Well, we'll be talking about that maybe next time as well. We'll certainly be talking about that at the top of the hour.
Yeah.
I've got to say thanks very much, and we've run out of time. So, for the moment, here's the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got quite a mix in the weather for the second half of the weekend, some sunny spells and showers, but also some cloud and some outbreaks of rain. But there'll also be plenty of fine and dry, settled weather across the south of the country today. So after a cold start, things will be warming up across the south and southeast and plenty of dry weather and some sunny spells. Across northern parts of Wales and northern England, though, a cloudier day with some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. And across Scotland, plenty of sunny spells, but also blustery showers too. And these could be heavy with some hail and thunder mixed in there too. Now, as we head into the evening, that band of cloud and rain will still continue to slowly sink its way towards the southeast of the country. But across Scotland, well, we'll see those showers during the day. They will eventually ease away and become mainly confined to coastal areas. Across Northern Ireland, the Scottish borders and parts of northern England, we'll see some late evening sunny spells before the sun does go down. But plenty of clouds still across Wales, moving into the Midlands with still those outbreaks of rain and drizzle, and fairly cloudy to the south and southeast too. Now through into Sunday evening, we will eventually see that rain and drizzle to the south ease away, but there'll be plenty of cloud here. But across the northern areas, parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, we'll see a few more clear spells, much lighter winds too, so it is going to be turning quite cold here. May even see some isolated patches of mist and fog, particularly in rural areas. But to the south, that's where it's going to feel a little bit milder under those cloudier skies. Now for Monday, high pressure will begin to build across the country, which means plenty of fine, dry, settled conditions across the country. And where you catch the sunshine, it is going to be feeling rather pleasant and warm, particularly in those lighter winds. So generally highs of around 21 Celsius down in the southeast, but to the north, highs of 17, possibly 18 degrees.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You can. And good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained. I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Hi
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
And a very good morning to you. It's very nearly 7 o'clock. We're just edging there. But sadly, a very sort of negative headline if you're a pensioner, because the news this morning is that you could be left £1,000 worse off this winter.
Labour is now reportedly planning to axe the single person's 25% discount on council tax, a move branded the widow's tax.
And with millions of pensioners left reeling at the news, many wonder how they're going to survive this winter at all.
The government is forced to defend their early prison release scheme after a man allegedly sexually assaulted a woman on the same day that he was freed.
Ministers are backing down on their petrol car ban, with reports that the sale of hybrid vehicles will be extended until 2035.
The Lib Dem conference continues in Brighton with calls to extend free school meals to all children living in poverty. The education spokesperson Munira Wilson explains more on Breakfast this morning.
And it's happy birthday to Prince Harry, who turns the big 4-0 today. We reflect on his achievements and ask whether it's time to bring him back into the royal fold.
And have you noticed it's well and truly autumn now? Well, we're going to be finding out if there's any hope of a final hint of summer before coat season officially begins.
Good morning. It was a huge day of Premier League action as Everton threw away a 2-goal lead to lose 3-2 for the second successive game, while prospective new owner John Textor reportedly is trying to persuade rapper Jay-Z to join his takeover bid. And in F1, Lando Norris has it all to do in today's Azerbaijan Grand Prix. More later.
Hello, good morning. Well, we have some heavy showers in the forecast and also some longer spells of rain. But there's also some dry and settled weather around with some warm, sunny spells. So if you want to find out where, stay tuned for all your latest details.
And it's 2 minutes past 7. I'm Anne Diamond.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
There you have it, Prince Harry, 40 today, which makes me feel old, never mind him. I mean, I can't believe it. But I wonder, you know, you were talking about whether you reflect at 40. And I suppose you probably do.
I think you reflect every big birthday, don't you?
Yes, you do, don't you? Except this one for me, I didn't want anything to do with it. And luckily it was eclipsed entirely by niece's wedding.
And it went away.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, it was a pool party day, which was the day after the wedding, was my birthday. Yeah.
That's the day I saw you.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was your birthday.
I think you said happy birthday, didn't you? Although I did put a ban on anyone saying it.
And I didn't know it was your birthday.
Yeah,
I saw you.
Yes.
I feel so bad.
No, we're talking about a birthday that I don't want to talk about.
Sorry, but happy birthday.
But 40. I feel 40 was brilliant. Actually, I can't remember my 40th. Oh, I can.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
Yeah, I can. I was doing Good Morning with Anne and Nick. And the team bought me a big bowl. You know, one of those lovely, pottery bowl things, which still has fruit in it to this day.
That's
very
nice.
Yeah, I do.
You do
remember
reflect on your big birthdays. And I wonder how Prince Harry is reflecting on the last 10 years especially, because so much has happened in a decade.
If you remember your 40th and you've got a good or a bad memory of it, actually, love to hear from you. Do get in touch, won't you? Yeah, is 40 one of those milestones? You won't know it yet. You won't know it yet, will you, Aidan?
Yeah.
Aidan's very familiar.
I was 7 years ago, yeah.
7 years ago, really?
I support QPR. We hired out the stadium.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Say that again.
We hired out the stadium.
The whole stadium?
Not the whole stadium, but the hospitality suite, yeah. It was magnificent.
Wow.
Absolutely magnificent.
Very flashy, Aidan.
That's a great idea for a birthday.
The floor manager where I was working, he organised the DJ for me. It was brilliant. Unfortunately, the team lost 4-0 on the day, but they were away from home. They're away from home. This was at the stadium itself. It was wonderful. But I worked in West London at the time, so it was a convenient place to have it in Shepherd's Bush.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Well, political commentator Andy Williams is with us as well. You haven't turned 40 yet, though, have you? No?
Not quite yet, no.
You're a youngster. You've got that to look forward to.
All to look forward to.
But have you turned the 3-0?
I have turned the 3-0.
Now, how much of a trauma was that?
Not particularly, actually. I was quite relaxed about it, I think, from memory.
Well, one day you'll look back and you'll think, oh, if only I was 30 again. But well, look, let's get down to business because you're here for a reason, not just to talk about birthdays.
And age.
I mean, this further blow to pensioners, or at least that's how it is being played out in the press. The council tax. What do you call it? The
discount.
Discount. Thank you. Which could be cancelled, and the Winterfield allowance as well. Pensioners are seeing that as this government doesn't love them anymore.
Well, I do think Labour need to look carefully at the single-person council tax thing, because I don't think that's the right way to go. I think there's a good reason for that discount being in place, but, and I know people are fed up of hearing it. The mess that Labour has inherited is terrible if you look at the public finances. There is an enormous gap between the amount we need to spend and the amount we're bringing in. And I'm afraid, Labour having committed to not raising income tax, not raising VAT, not raising national insurance, we're going to have to find that money elsewhere. And I think it might not sound pleasant, but the changes to the winter fuel allowance, that is a very obvious area to me where you can raise some money, because 80% of people who are getting that money don't need it. And so what we're saying is we're not taking money away from the poorest pensioners. We're going to take money away from people who don't need that money. And I accept that there needs to be a big drive to make sure people are signing up for pension credit so that they get the people who do need that winter fuel allowance get it. But politics is about priorities, and I think what we're looking at is making some difficult choices. And as Keir Starmer's been saying, those things landing on the people with the broadest shoulders.
Can I ask you about the early release scheme, controversial scheme? And we're now hearing that a man has allegedly sexually assaulted a woman on the same day that he was freed from prison. Now, the Prime Minister has previously said that anyone that's deemed a threat to public safety would not be freed. But if this is true, I mean, dangerous people are being released and are a threat.
It's awful. Absolutely awful. I mean, firstly, it's increasingly clear that the previous Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, made a conscious decision not to act on the prisons crisis for political reasons. And I think that's a disgrace.
What would that political reason be? You mean...
Well, he knew that, given that you can't build a prison in a day, he knew that the prisons were almost full and that people would have to be released from prison in order to free up space. And he didn't do that because there was a general election.
But Keir Starmer, when he said he would, he also promised that it wouldn't be anyone with who was guilty of a violent crime. And it's very clear in the first release day that some people were released who most of us would consider violent. And this man allegedly was. Straight away.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that people who've committed violent crimes or sexual assaults or domestic violence or anything like that, we need to be really careful about who we're releasing. Unfortunately, we're in a situation where we have to release some people, but we need to look at the history of those people, what's their disposition, are they likely to commit crimes again, and be really careful about who we're releasing.
Well, there was one man released who had a history, and that's what he'd been in prison, of domestic violence. And the police have had to contact his wife or ex-wife and tell her that he's out again, and that will come as a very nasty shock to her, because he was an absolute threat to her and is now still an absolute threat to her. That was not what Keir Starmer said he'd do. No,
as I say, when it comes to violent crime, domestic violence, anything like that, we need to be really, really careful.
Yeah, and he's not being. I mean, and he was the former DPP. You'd expect him to at least really know how to carry that one.
I think it's really worrying, and we saw, and there was a really interesting, piece in the Sunday Times last week, and they stood outside Brixton Prison and interviewed a load of people who came out, and some of those prisoners who'd been released were being very clear that they were going to reoffend again.
Yes.
So it is a
They were almost determined to, weren't they?
They were, and it's a massive worry.
Yeah. Andy, can I ask you about Sir Keir Starmer breaching parliamentary rules by failing to declare high-end clothes, designer clothes, that were donated by a multi-millionaire businessman, Lord Ali, to his wife, Victoria?
I think this is really frustrating, because I think Keir Starmer is a good person, a decent person, has integrity, but things like this make it look like he doesn't. And it allows people to claim that he's debasing politics in a way that I don't think he is. He's claimed that he's going to clear up politics, and I think we definitely need that. We sorely need to, we don't want to move towards an American-style system where politics is entirely driven by money. I think that is a real problem if we end up there. So I would like to see Starmer distancing himself. I don't think there's anything that's really wrong about this, but it makes it look like there might be, and I think that's the concern.
I think for a lot of people, it's the hypocrisy, isn't it? I mean, Sir Keir Starmer's almost been pious when he's criticised Boris Johnson in the past. He's been very squeaky clean, or vowed to be, said he's going to clean up politics and the rest.
But I think, but by the way, I mean, he was right to criticise Boris Johnson because the way he behaved as Prime Minister was shocking and debased the office of Prime Minister. I mean, it really, really did. And so, but as you kind of allude to, Ellie, actions speak louder than words, and Starmer has to back that up by being squeaky clean if he's going to say that you should be as Prime Minister. And
he's accepted, according to Financial Times, £76,000 worth of clothes and entertainment from donations.
That's a lot of money.
From donors. Yeah, more than almost any other MP. I mean, he's accepted more than most.
Yeah, but look, I mean, there's no evidence or suggestion that Lord Ali has more influence than the average peer. I think that's really important. Again, as I say, it's about perception, and it doesn't look good. So I would just say to any member of the Labour government, just stop this, because it doesn't help the case that you're trying to make.
It gives easy ammunition as well.
It does.
To the media and the press to just have a go at him.
Even though, actually, as I say, I don't think there's any evidence that there's anything dodgy going on. It just doesn't look good.
It's the optics, isn't it?
Well, it is, and it just shows, maybe being in an opposition for a long time, you don't realise how critical the optics are once you're
I think that's right, and I think one thing we've seen in the last... I mean, bearing in mind, we're only 2 months into a Labour government. I think it's interesting, a lot of people are... I was on this channel the other day with somebody who was claiming that our GDP growth in July flatlining was Labour's fault, which is ludicrous because they were only elected 8 weeks ago. Yes. But I think what I'm trying to say is that it's a steep learning curve going into government, and I think they've made a few rookie errors in terms of handling the media and perception. And if you look at the narrative, which is very doom and gloom, I think they've already realised that that's not playing very well. So there are difficult decisions to be made, like the winter fuel allowance, but actually constantly telling people that everything's dreadful.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's not going to help.
Just not.
So I think they're
Especially if you want your second term, which they do.
Which they do, and which is being portrayed and discussed by many people as being inevitable, and it's not inevitable. You have to work really hard to win a general election. It's not just the case that, yes, the Tories were rightfully, in my view, very unpopular, but they also, Labour had to persuade people that they were credible again. And so it's hard work. And, yeah, as I say, I think we're on a steep learning curve, but I'm hoping that they're getting there.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That they'll learn as they go up the curve. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Right, let's now talk about something equally controversial.
Yes.
The weather.
Yeah, and you must have really felt it getting off the plane from the south of France.
Oh, it's
how
bitterly
cold it was. Felt like we'd landed in winter.
Yes.
Because the cold really has set in this week, hasn't it?
And while we have been promised warmer weather this coming week, apparently, the Met Office say that temperatures could plummet to zero by the end of the month. This is September, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, and you know what below zero means? Snowy weather. And it's even been forecast in certain parts of the country already.
Well, it'll look pretty, but what on earth is happening to the weather?
Yes.
Joining us is meteorologist Jim Dale. Good morning, Jim. Well, there you are. Why is the weather fluctuating from one extreme, it seems, to another so quickly? We get a couple of days of good weather, and then suddenly it's gone again, and a couple of days of horrendous weather, and then it sort of goes again. What's going on?
Yeah, we're kind of used to that happening in October, November time rather than September. September I've always seen as the new summer month where we can continue on our stretch through the previous summer. And this time around, very different. We got an Arctic blast, basically. That's what happened. The isobars were in the wrong place and we got that cold weather coming down. And it was cold. And by the way, we saw a -3 in the Glens of Scotland last week, a few days ago. And many places saw 0, 1s, 2s and 3s. So it's extremely unusual. All of that has shifted now into Europe, which I'll mention in a second, second or two. But yeah, this sort of Elsa Skelter weather, maybe we've got to get used to it. You've mentioned snow at the end of the month. I'm surprised the Met Office are actually saying that, because they don't normally go more than about a week ahead. And I'm looking at charts just above my head here, and they're suggesting there is a little bit of a cold plunge, but I think we've just had the worst of it. That's probably it. Now we're going into something much more settled. In fact, this week, for the most part, is going to be dry, fine, settled, warm, lovely. Get your deck chairs back out, put your T-shirts on, at least in the afternoons. It's going in that direction. By the end of the week, we're going to see some showers, probably in the south to begin with, migrating further north, and then we come back home to next week. This is a week on Tuesday where we're probably going to see the Atlantic back in. But listen, I should mention something that's not been mentioned so far, and that is Europe. What's going on there at this moment in time? Because all of that cold weather that we had hit the very warm, hot weather that was in Central and Eastern Europe, and it's caused devastation. There are floods unfolding at this moment in time. There are deaths involved. And we're not talking about floods that are ankle deep here. We're talking about floods that are actually chest and neck deep, and across places like Romania, Czech Republic, Slovakia, southern Germany, Poland, Austria. It's not just a local event. This is a huge thing. The actual storm was called, believe it or not, Storm Boris.
No.
Yeah. I don't know who named it, but anyway, Storm Boris. And it's going to remain in situ. The Romanian president has already called it a climate-induced event, a climate change-induced event. I wouldn't be too far away from that, to be frank with you. Obviously, you get storms, they do occur, but when you've got sea temperatures in the Mediterranean and other places that have reached record levels, then you've got the energy into the atmosphere that allows this to actually occur. And you've got to watch the space in these next couple of days. You know, we've seen what we've seen, or you will see these pictures come out in these next 24 hours of the devastation that's actually going on. I think it will only get worse.
Awful. Jim, bringing it back to the UK, many people feel as though we've had a very poor summer. No summer at all, really, just the odd hot day here or there. Do you think there's any chance of an Indian summer? Could we see hotter temperatures in September, October?
Okay, Alice, so we saw about 7 days where we saw over 30 degrees in southern Britain, and a couple of days a little bit further north than that. So it wasn't quite devoid of summer, but you're right. Indian summer doesn't kick in September. It kicks in October and early November. That's the normal time, and this goes back to the North Americans in places like Wisconsin and places like that look for that waft of air coming off the Gulf of Mexico and up. So that's where the name came from. Our own Indian summer, if it arrives, there's every chance. There's no reason why not. Anne, you just mentioned the fact that our weather, is in turmoil sometimes. We don't know which way to turn, which side of the coin we're going to get. So I would, given where we're at and given the sea temperatures that are further south in the Atlantic and Mediterranean, there's every chance that we're going to see at least some good weather as we move into October. It's a long way off. Just enjoy this week as it's coming for this moment in time.
Well, at least that is good news. Thanks very much indeed. Lovely to see you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Jim.
And you.
I'm so pleased that it's not officially coat season yet, because I hadn't actually ever I still had hope, Anne. I still had hope.
Yes.
My summer wardrobe is still in the wardrobe.
It's very depressing, isn't it, when you have to get the winter coat out again?
I know. I don't have the space for both, so I have the winter wardrobe under the bed, and I have the summer wardrobe in the wardrobe. And I didn't swap the two around.
Hang on to the summer stuff for a
bit
longer.
For another week.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim Doe.
It's being stalwart British holidaymakers. So you have to have that sort of attitude.
Yeah.
Stalwart.
But I did have a fright when I got off the plane last week. I was in a linen dress and flip-flops, and it was freezing.
Yeah.
I said,
it was a nasty shock.
It was.
Let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning. And Europe's governing football body, UEFA, has warned the England team could be banned from its own tournament in 2028 if Sir Keir Starmer moves ahead with plans to create a men's football regulator. That's after UEFA's General Secretary said there was no place for government interference in the sport.
Saturday night saw classical music fans celebrate the last night of the proms in London. But it wasn't all smooth sailing after some concertgoers had EU flags confiscated by security. That's after the Royal Albert Hall released guidance banning flags, including those related to protest, on the patriotic proms finale.
Now, the second day of the Lib Dem party conference gets underway this morning. Day one featured the cost of living, defence and veterans, and crucially, their plan to fix the NHS. The party leader, Sir Ed Davey, is due to speak today after the Lib Dems' historic success at the general election.
Yesterday afternoon, he arrived at the conference in a rather unconventional way, or maybe that's something we're meant to get used to with Ed Davey. He rode a jet ski to the venue in Brighton.
I think it's very sweet of him doing that. He's obviously really liked the effect it caused during the general election campaign when he was always on the water doing various things, wasn't he?
Well, he got lots of attention for it.
He did. Well, and you could argue that, you know, lots of attention did give them a lot of votes in the election. So no wonder he's sticking to it.
Let's carry on.
Yes. Let's see what the Sunday weather forecast is like for you. Here's Honor.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got quite a mix in the weather for the second half of the weekend, some sunny spells and showers, but also some cloud and some outbreaks of rain. But there'll also be plenty of fine and dry, settled weather across the south of the country today. So after a cold start, things will be warming up across the south and southeast and plenty of dry weather and some sunny spells. Across northern parts of Wales and northern England, though, a cloudier day with some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. And across Scotland, plenty of sunny spells, but also blustery showers too. And these could be heavy with some hail and thunder mixed in there too. Now, as we head into the evening, that band of cloud and rain will still continue to slowly sink its way towards the southeast of the country. But across Scotland, well, we'll see those showers during the day. They will eventually ease away and become mainly confined to coastal areas. Across Northern Ireland, the Scottish borders and parts of northern England, we'll see some late evening sunny spells before the sun does go down. But plenty of clouds still across Wales, moving into the Midlands with still those outbreaks of rain and drizzle, and fairly cloudy to the south and southeast too. Now through into Sunday evening, we will eventually see that rain and drizzle to the south ease away, but there'll be plenty of cloud here. But across the northern areas, parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, we'll see a few more clear spells, much lighter winds too, so it is going to be turning quite cold here. May even see some isolated patches of mist and fog, particularly in rural areas. But to the south, that's where it's going to feel a little bit milder under those cloudier skies. Now for Monday, high pressure will begin to build across the country, which means plenty of fine, dry, settled conditions across the country. And where you catch the sunshine, it is going to be feeling rather pleasant and warm, particularly in those lighter winds. So generally highs of around 21 Celsius down in the southeast, but to the north, highs of 17, possibly 18 degrees.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Time for the Great British Giveaway now, and your chance to win the equivalent of an extra £3,000 in your bank account every month for a year. Really nice. Or, of course, you can take the 36 grand in tax-free cash in one lump sum, if you like. Here are the details of how you might be able to win it.
You demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. Do stay with us. Still to come, is it time that Prince Harry made up with his family? Could he even return to royal duties as he turns 40? That's next.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday nights on GB News. From 6, Neil Oliver. At 7, it's Free Speech Nation with Andrew Doyle. At 9, Mark Dolan. And at 11, get set for the week ahead with headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. GB News royalty with your perfect start to the weekend. Lucky us. Feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions that raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return. And a few surprises along the way. Might be cold in this studio. That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9 only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, here's something that will get you going. It's Prince Harry time. It's actually his birthday today. So
Happy birthday, Prince Harry.
he turns 40 today, which is quite a milestone for us all, because we all remember him as a little baby boy when Princess Diana presented him for the first time outside on the steps of St Mary's, Paddington. And it was so lovely. But he's 40, I can't believe it. Anyway, he's released a statement saying he's nothing but excited for the next decade. And he opened up about fatherhood. He said it gave him a fresh perspective on life, of course.
But what about his family back here in the UK? We're asking this morning, is it time that Harry was brought in from the cold and given a second chance? Or has too much been said and done? To debate this, we're joined now by Senior Gardener to King Charles, Jack Stooks, and Royal Commentator Richard Fitzwilliams. Really good to see you both this morning. Let's start with you, shall we, Jack? And I'm sure you have a lot of sympathy for Prince Harry because you know him well.
I do, and I was lucky enough to know him growing up. I'd been at Highgrove for 21 years, so I had the pleasure of knowing the whole family. And I just feel that now is the time to just go, do you know, what is the point? Why are we all hating on Harry? When I say we all, I'm not, but it's just everybody's spending all of their time hating Harry for some reason, and it's not actually anything to do with them. You know, he's had a family rift. Yes, we've all had family rifts in our time. We've all sort of done and said things to our parents, our siblings, that we regret later on. But Harry is 40. He is getting older. His children are growing up without seeing their cousins. Why not just, you know, let him come back, let him be back in the fold, get him involved in the Commonwealth. You know, something that he actually wanted to do when he was told no, you know, no, you're out. And once they said no, you're out, that's only when he wrote the book. So he didn't write the book prior to there being a fallout. So there must have been a fallout of some sorts that I don't think we'll ever fully know what, because that will happen behind closed doors. But I think it's time to move on, and you know, let that the sort of the past be the past, and move forward positively, and hopefully we shall see what the next year brings with his 40th.
Richard, what do you think?
Well, firstly, I wish Harry a very happy 40th birthday in California, where he says his home is, with Meghan, Archie and Lily, absolutely. But so far as returning, whether or not to do some royal duties, I mean, he will be back periodically, I think. What we're looking at this month, in fact, is 4 years to the day since they were representing the Queen in South Africa, and they made it clear that they were deeply unhappy and that a rift had begun. And since then, we've had so much avoidable sensation. They've monetized the rift with the royal family, and also they've harmed the royal family. I wish it was as simple as Jack says, because it simply isn't. Firstly, as the monarchy needs a certain amount, obviously, of dignity. It's a pivotal part of our unwritten constitution. It would become nothing more than a circus if Harry returned and we'd had this on-off situation. Remember, he's trashed them in the Oprah interview, which did so much harm. Some recollections may indeed vary, but not on what they said on that. And then subsequently, there was the Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary, which the talking heads attacked the Commonwealth. They were given Commonwealth posts by the Queen, and they produced this. And then Spare in the interviews around it, that led to their eviction from Frogmore because his attacks on Queen Camilla were considered out of order, and not to mention the sad rift with him and William. Before we've got reconciliation, there's a long way to go. It's obvious because he and William didn't speak at Lord Fellowes' memorial. And the other problem, of course, is that, as I say, you need dignity for an institution. It's got two senior members who are seriously ill at the moment, and the optics of Harry's last two visits here were, I thought, rather extraordinary. But for heaven's sake, I mean, you cannot have Harry returning on some sort of basis where he might or might not give media interviews which are attacking the royal family. Why don't the Sussexes, this is my question, why don't they say things, if they want reconciliation, supporting the royal family and supporting the Commonwealth?
Jack, what do you think? Do you think that too much harm has been done? Do you think that trust has been broken with these damaging allegations made in the book Spare, in the Netflix series, in the sit-down interview with Oprah? I mean, the sense in the papers this morning is that King Charles would be open to some sort of reconciliation with his son. It's Prince William who says that too much damage has been done. What's your sense of the way that things lie?
I think damage has obviously been done. You know, we've all seen and we've all heard reports, and some of us have read the book, some of us have listened to the book, and things were said in that book that I think even Harry probably regrets putting into the book. But it is, in hindsight, it is the past. You know, it's like we say, we all have made mistakes. And you know, he came out of England. He was pushed out of the family, and he sort of thought, rightly or wrongly, he was pushed out of the family. He left. He went to America, and he thought, do you know what? I want my side to be heard. And I've said it before. The press have vilified Harry, and he comes back for a visit, and you know, he might be coming back for brief visits that we have seen, and maybe he is trying to clear the air. Maybe he is trying to fix things that we don't quite see. But the minute he comes back, he's told, oh, he was only here for 5 minutes. What's Harry done? Why is he only here for 5 minutes?
Jack,
but if he comes back in his 2 weeks, it's like, oh, why was Harry here for so long? And I think, you know, the hate that everybody has for Harry is come from somewhere. But what's the end game? I mean, do we all have to hate Harry for the rest of time? Or can we all just go, do you know, let's just, the mistakes are done. Let's move forward and get positive, get him back where he was, you know, where we all loved and adored him.
Jack, we've already run out of time on this, sadly.
Sorry.
But no, it's lovely to have people who speak so well. Thank you.
Yes.
Both. But, Jack, just before we do say goodbye, I mean, you mentioned the word hate there. I hope nobody wants to hate Harry at all. It's just a sort of visceral reaction to some of the things he said. But can we end on love? Because if there is any rapprochement to be made, it really depends on the love between Charles and Harry, his son, and hopefully between a basic, you know, fraternal love that there must still be somewhere between William and Harry.
May I say, this should be settled privately. The Sussexes have this habit, they seem to find the media irresistible. They must go on television to talk about things. That is not helpful and won't lead to reconciliation. What hopefully will, and I agree with Jack there, of course, nobody wants splits, and the rift is very, very deep indeed. We've seen this. But it must be done privately. The Sussexes must keep off the airwaves other than for positive,
positive
projects.
Jack, final word. I just wanted to ask you, you must have seen the love between those three in your time with them.
Yeah, completely. Amazing. I mean, great family. You know, they're all wonderful family. And we see that on a daily basis with the royals we see here. But they were amazing, an amazing set of people, and I think the king was amazing. You know, with the death of their mother, he did a fantastic job, and the boys absolutely adored him, and he obviously adores them. So I don't think that's lost. So let's just keep that going, and you know, instead of putting out the negative press, let's try and get the positive going and get back to where we were.
Absolutely, gentlemen, both. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You will have a view on that at home. Is it time that we forgive Harry? The past is in the past, as Jack Stooks says there. gbnews.com/you'll say. Let us know what you think. Maggie says, Harry is unforgivable. He isn't even apologetic. So why would we forgive him?
I think that an apology.
Apology could go a long way, couldn't it?
Yeah. It's just a difficult one for him to do, because clearly he meant some of what he said. And also, if he apologises too much, he looks as though he's betraying Meghan.
Meghan, I know.
A very, very difficult one.
Between a rock and a hard place now.
Very much so, I think, yeah. Do stay with us. Still to come, could Jay-Z join the takeover of Everton? Aidan McGee will explain all in a couple of moments.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets and my take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Ellie and Anne. And Aidan's here as well because he's joined us now to make some sense of the headline that I was reading out earlier about UEFA and the regulatory body that Keir Starmer wants to bring in that's going to stop England playing in 2028. I don't understand how that all works.
Well, the football regulator we've known about it for a few years now. What we've not known about is when it's going to be in situ, when it's going to start, when they're going to start.
Why was there thought to be a need for one in the first place?
Because the FA was given several opportunities to sort football out, and there are lots of different things that I mean, price of tickets, things like the sustainability in terms of how clubs govern themselves. You know, why are so many clubs going out of business? Why are they always up against it in terms of their finances? There's also the funding model as well. So, for example, so much of the money, I think something like 90% of all the broadcasting money that comes into football is concentrated on the Premier League. What about the rest? What about the Championship, League One, League Two? When you come out of the Premier League, Anne, for finishing bottom of the league, that's worth about £100 million. So when you go down to the Championship, you've got a huge advantage over most of the other clubs in that division, and it's financial doping in some ways. That's the reward for finishing bottom. So you haven't even achieved anything. You could lose all your matches and still get 100 million quid. Of course, you've got to get there in the first place, yes. But nonetheless, it skews the competition. You've got to have a really good... I mean, Ipswich last season, Luton the season before, they did it without parachute money, so that's deemed as being more of an achievement. But now that if they come down again, they're going down with a bloated budget. So it skews the competition. That's what it does. So there's lots of different things that pique the interest of the government.
Sorting out.
Yeah. And the FA were given several opportunities to get it sorted. The Premier League as well. The FA are the arbiters of the game, the guardians of the game in this country, but the Premier League is where the real power lies. They're the clubs. And that's why City were hit with Man City were hit with these 115 charges. Look at how we're treating one of our own. The Premier League is the clubs. Look at how we're treating one of our own. We show that nobody can run amok over our practices. And it's coincided with, yes, we know the football regulators coming in, but we don't know what teeth it's going to have. Now, this is where this comes in. This is where this becomes important because reading between the lines, knowing the FA, knowing the Premier League as I do, I'd be staggered if they hadn't contacted somebody, one of their mates at UEFA, to just send a little bit of a shot across the bows, across the government. Now, it'd be very embarrassing. This is what's happened. The UEFA General Secretary, Theodoridis, has sent a letter to the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, saying, we're worried about government interference into football, and that's where a football regulator would take us. No other country has this, and we have strict rules about government interference into football. Once we open the lid on this, then other countries with much more brutalised regimes may run amok with this.
And why, then, if that happened, why would that affect England playing in 2028?
On the face of it, it doesn't, but they can offer a threat.
It's a warning shot.
It's a warning. They say, look, if you go this way, we can do this. It's not going to happen. It says in the article that I read on the BBC website that privately there's no fear that this would happen anyway. So it's pie in the sky, really, but it might just... Do the government, an incoming government, which is already under pressure, do they want to be the ones who are risking England's hosting of Euro 2028? We don't host many tournaments anyway, Anne, and so this could be a real issue. I don't think it will go much further than a drawing board, if I'm perfectly honest with you, but it's just a little bit of food for thought. When Labour decide or any of the appointees decide what kind of teeth the regulator will have, they may just say, well, maybe we'll dilute it slightly. We don't want to be interfering with UEFA. UEFA are a very powerful body within European football. They are the equivalent of the FA, but at European level.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Could we just have a very brief look at Jay-Z and potentially joining the takeover of Everton?
Well, he's a friend of a guy called John Textor, a US backer who currently has a majority shareholding or close to majority shareholding in Crystal Palace. He's got to get rid of his Crystal Palace shares, and that could take ages yet. But he's known to be interested in taking over Everton, and there's a story on the back of The Sun saying that he's enlisting the help of Jay-Z, the rapper, husband of... is it husband or boyfriend of...
husband.
Beyonce, yeah. So... husband, yeah. So he's a multi-billionaire, and he's looking to go. If you want somewhere to go and spend his money and lose it, then Everton might be a good way to do it. They lost a 2-goal lead for the second time in 2 games yesterday, so they're right on the floor right now.
Why Why do all these Americans want to get involved in football?
They really do, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, the thing they don't like, what they don't like is relegation. This is why it hasn't happened up to now. It's happening recently, but they don't like relegation. They don't like the idea they buy this franchise that earns so much money, but, hang on a minute, if we lose games, we could go into another division where we don't get the money. And a lot of it is put off a lot of them from buying it. Maybe they sense that the Premier League might go down a route where there is no relegation. And so, look, it's very sexy. The football is the biggest story in town most weeks, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And so, so I can see why they want to get involved. They're certainly not the first, and they won't be the last.
That's what happens in America, isn't it?
Yes, it is indeed.
OK, thanks very much, Aidan. In a couple of moments, we'll be looking through the newspapers. One of the amazing stories that our newspaper reviewers have found is that there is this screen-free school, which has a waiting list now. They've gone back to basics and they've banned screens. We'll find out more about that in a couple of moments.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
Angela, what have we got?
Hello, there's an awful lot, but I think the main interesting thing is that Prince Harry said a week or so, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, that he absolutely wasn't going to go to his uncle's funeral because there wasn't enough protection for him. His uncle, Lord Fellows, was married to Jane Spencer, who was Diana's sister, who was the most practical and helpful of the three children, the three girls, and she's done an awful lot for Harry. I thought it was just terrible. He wasn't going to go there, but he has been there. They didn't talk to William. William didn't talk to him. Did he get any protection? Who knows? And if he didn't, if he takes the government to court yet again, they would say, well, look, we managed without that, but we don't know about that. But also the paper, the magazine that does loads for Harry and Meghan, they were the ones who said he wasn't going, so they said what he wanted them to say.
He doesn't need any protection. I mean, how did he get there? Probably in a Bombardier private jet that gives off 60 times more carbon than anybody else.
Yes, well, we don't know about that. The good thing was that he was there, and of course today is Remembrance Day for Diana, the day she died. So that he went there and he was with her side of the family, and I think that that's very good and might help him feel a bit better about things.
But neither of them are doing well out of it. William is not doing well out of it. Harry is not doing well out of it. The King is not doing well out of it. Meghan Markle's not doing well out of it. Why can't they just...
No, I don't think it's that easy. I think that they might do much worse if they were together again.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Queer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, time for the newspapers. We've got Tom Slater with us and Scarlett Maguire, and let's get stuck into a story which I think a lot of people will be worried about, concerned about for all sorts of various reasons. It's the front page lead of the Daily Mail, assisted dying bill set to be rushed into law. Tom, tell us more.
So the story in the Mail on Sunday is that within weeks there could be a vote in the House of Commons on the subject of assisted dying. This is a particular issue that is close to Keir Starmer's heart, given his mother's long-term ill health. And also something that it's one of the things he's been quite consistent on as a politician.
And he promised Dame Esther Ranson that he would have a debate.
Absolutely. And actually, I think at the last election, both Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer pledged to do this. So it was.
And actually, when he was Director of Public Prosecutions, he brought in assisted dying guidelines to show when you are and aren't breaking the law, which I have read because my mother wanted to die, but we never did it. And they were really, really sensible, so that you could think it through.
And he chose not to prosecute certain people who came back from Dignitas and so on.
Yeah.
But this is a really profound issue that as a country you have to wrestle with. And I think sometimes in this discussion, it's almost treated as sort of a matter of common sense. What they're talking about bringing in would be where in 6 months left to live, terminal illness, people would be able to access assisted dying, as it's euphemistically called. Effectively, it's assisted suicide. And this, I think it's important that we're having this debate because of the fact that I think whilst this can strike people as a matter of kind of common sense, why wouldn't you want to give people control in the final days of life when they're in a lot of pain and so on? I don't think there's been a lot of discussion and a lot of spotlight on where it has been tried and the fact that almost everywhere it's been introduced, those safeguards around 6 months terminal illness and so on tend to go by the wayside very quickly. I mean, Canada passed what they call medical assistance in dying in 2016. They're now at a point where they're very likely to bring in a new amendment to the law which would allow for people who just have chronic mental ill health. And there's even people who've been doing the rounds in the Canadian media saying, I've struggled with anorexia for many years, and as soon as the law changes, I'm going to access this service. And I think that story has been repeated time and again in so many different countries, in so many different states in the US where it's been legalised, that it's the slippery slope is very real in relation to this issue. So I get that there is some very heartrending stories. There's also a lot of very understandable nervousness about the fact that people wouldn't be in control in the final days of life. But I'm glad this debate is getting started in a way in this country because I think there has been enough.
I mean, I was slightly
light
upset
shone
by
on
the
other
word
side.
rushed. You know, it being rushed into law. They will have a proper debate on it, won't they?
Well, hopefully.
Yes, because I want to hear all sides of the argument.
There is... I mean, the debate has been going on for a long time. It's been debated before. That I think that there is absolutely no question that this isn't going to be a... Look, this is a very important thing, so we need, and it's urgent. This will be taken time. So I think you're absolutely right. When I saw the word rushed, I thought, what on earth is going on? But I think that what has happened is that actually the people in Britain are way ahead of the politicians. Is that I think about 80% want assisted dying, and it is because it's the one thing. I mean, Esther Ransom says, she has a choice. She can either go to Zurich and she has to book it in advance. She has to work out when it is. Or she can stay here and then she can just go, I can't bear it anymore. Yeah. And maybe it'll never happen. Yeah. Maybe it'll never happen. And of course we should have proper palliative care. Of course we really need hospices. But I think, I know that my father was in agony for 10 days and then a locum actually gave him a massive overdose of morphine. And for his funeral, we chose, as the charity, we chose Dying with Dignity. And we raised £1,000 because people felt so strongly about
But do you not worry about the slippery slope?
I don't worry about the slippery slope because I think we have to put in really, really safeguards. Yeah. But I do think that it is... I mean, the problem with it not happening is that the rich people do go to Zurich, but they do go early. And actually, you want to go on until... And you just go, no, this is the end. And actually, and of course, we've got, it's got to be 2 doctors. It's got to be making sure that...
It never is watertight.
No, but Canada started out that way. I mean, I've read a lot about... They started out having really nailed it down, and the slippery slope has happened there.
It's almost less a slippery slope, more a cliff edge almost. Very quickly you see
very
these things start.
quickly.
It's also worth looking at the groups and organisations which are dead set against this. Generally speaking, palliative care practitioners are very against a change in law. They worry that this is basically going to get us away from a discussion about how do we properly fund and set up end-of-life care rather than just focus on this. Also, disabled groups very firmly against it because of the fact that it does introduce a kind of sense of whose life isn't worth living on the basis of this.
Sadly, I mean, this has been the one story that has motivated us all and kept us talking all this time.
Yeah.
We have to end it there for the moment. We come back to it with your views. Right now, here's the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got quite a mix in the weather for the second half of the weekend, some sunny spells and showers, but also some cloud and some outbreaks of rain. But there'll also be plenty of fine and dry, settled weather across the south of the country today. So after a cold start, things will be warming up across the south and southeast and plenty of dry weather and some sunny spells. Across northern parts of Wales and northern England, though, a cloudier day with some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. And across Scotland, plenty of sunny spells, but also blustery showers too. And these could be heavy with some hail and thunder mixed in there too. Now, as we head into the evening, that band of cloud and rain will still continue to slowly sink its way towards the southeast of the country. But across Scotland, well, we'll see those showers during the day. They will eventually ease away and become mainly confined to coastal areas. Across Northern Ireland, the Scottish borders and parts of northern England, we'll see some late evening sunny spells before the sun does go down. But plenty of clouds still across Wales, moving into the Midlands with still those outbreaks of rain and drizzle, and fairly cloudy to the south and southeast too. Now through into Sunday evening, we will eventually see that rain and drizzle to the south ease away, but there'll be plenty of cloud here. But across the northern areas, parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, we'll see a few more clear spells, much lighter winds too, so it is going to be turning quite cold here. May even see some isolated patches of mist and fog, particularly in rural areas. But to the south, that's where it's going to feel a little bit milder under those cloudier skies. Now for Monday, high pressure will begin to build across the country, which means plenty of fine, dry, settled conditions across the country. And where you catch the sunshine, it is going to be feeling rather pleasant and warm, particularly in those lighter winds. So generally highs of around 21 Celsius down in the southeast, but to the north, highs of 17, possibly 18 degrees.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
This is luck. In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be that.
Every weekday from midday,
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Pensioners could be left £1,000 worse off this winter.
Labour is now reportedly planning to axe the single person's 25% discount on council tax in a move branded the widow's tax.
Yes, it could put millions of pensioners really worried and certainly reeling at the news. Many are wondering how they're going to survive this winter.
The government is also forced to defend their early prison release scheme after a man allegedly sexually assaulted a woman on the same day as he was freed.
Ministers backing down on their petrol car ban, with reports that the sale of hybrid vehicles will now be extended until 2035.
The Lib Dem conference continues in Brighton with calls to extend free school meals to all children living in poverty. The education spokesperson Munira Wilson explains this on Breakfast this morning.
And it's happy birthday to Prince Harry, who turns the big 4-0 today. We reflect on his achievements and ask whether it's time to bring him back into the royal fold.
And have you noticed, you must have been unless you've been living under a rock, that it's well and truly autumn now. It's been blisteringly cold this week. We'll be finding out if there's any hope of a final hint of summer before coach season officially begins.
A first defeat for Liverpool manager Arne Slot brings an end to his honeymoon as Nottingham Forest win at Anfield for the first time since man landed on the moon. 1969 that was. Elsewhere, we look ahead to today's Northumberland derby, and in F1, Lando Norris has it all to do in today's Azerbaijan Grand Prix. More later.
Hello, good morning. Well, we have some heavy showers in the forecast and also some longer spells of rain. But there's also some dry and settled weather around with some warm, sunny spells. So if you want to find out where, stay tuned for all your latest details.
Well, it's just coming up to 2 minutes past 8. I'm Anne Diamond.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
(2035) we're going to be able to drive our hybrid cars and buy hybrid cars until 2035. Yeah?
Yes.
Right. I was just thinking that by then surely we'll have driverless cars and we won't need.
Oh, I've been saying this for a while though.
I know.
It's not
I
happening
was looking
anytime
forward to it,
soon.
But 2035 isn't that
Looking
far
forward to
away.
I can't
no.
see it. I can't see driverless cars or driverless trains.
The revolution hasn't happened. I remember, we've been talking about it for a good 5 years and we're saying
Yes.
it's just around the corner. And it still hasn't happened, really, has it?
Well, I don't think it's an issue over safety. I think it would be about public confidence, wouldn't it? But as regards trains, specifically, the cost of implementing it into implementing driverless trains would be absolutely colossal.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons stopping it, and it involves changes to the entire transport infrastructure.
I mean, there's the Docklands Light Railway, isn't there, in London?
Yes.
That's driverless.
Oh, huge success. Huge success.
And
as
that's
well.
successful, yeah, but it will be rolled out across the whole.
C6, I think it did. No one knew what that would grow into, and it stood the test of time, no question about it.
Does it suffer like the rest of the railway service with leaves on the line and things like that?
Probably not.
Keep going.
I've been on it a few times. I've never seen any leaves, I must admit. But that's not to say there aren't any.
No.
Couldn't say that. But you rarely hear it being delayed or anything like that.
You don't hear about it, no, at all. No. Just gets on with it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
But yeah, the driverless car revolution hasn't happened.
Hasn't happened just yet, but we can hope, can't we? It'd be nice. I don't like driving, so I'd quite
Just
like
like
a driverless car.
airports as well. They have the transfers
the shuttle,
between
yes.
shuttles.
They
I
do
think
that,
they're driverless.
I think
But
they are
it's
too.
very limited range.
And very
of course.
successful as well.
It doesn't need to go very far, to be fair.
But I was looking forward to the day when you just have an app on your phone
Me
and
too.
just
Yeah.
call up a car.
Yes.
Just come for you. And
Yeah.
You're not
sit in
doing
the back
too
reading the
badly, though, in your
papers.
Tesla.
No, I didn't.
That was fun, wasn't it?
Driving the Tesla was an experience. Yeah.
I'd like to try that.
It was the idea of having a trunk at the back and a frunk at the
And a
front.
frunk, yes. And everything's done on an iPad, isn't it?
Yes,
Isn't it?
yeah. But a big one,
Front trunk.
Oh, front trunk. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's in with it. She's got all the lingo.
Yeah. Sounds like
Anne
it.
Diamond.
Yeah.
Very good.
Very experienced Tesla driver now. I just couldn't figure out how to charge it, so I left it to
You couldn't figure out quite how to get it to go.
No.
But
No, getting it to go is-
once it was gone, you had
to
a great
put a little,
time.
You got a little key card to
Yes.
work it, and you had to put it in a certain place. I was just holding it in my hand or whatever. You've got to put it in a certain place under the armrest for it to, and then suddenly everything comes on.
Oh,
No difference like pulling out the choke. Do you remember that?
Oh yes, pulling out the choke. Yes, it's not like that anymore.
No. We want to hear from you about the winter fuel allowance. We were talking about it, weren't we, before we came on air? We've forgotten to ask you for it, so we're going to ask you now. How are you feeling about the winter fuel allowance? Is this going to affect you this winter? Are you nervous about heating your home this winter? Are you nervous about looking at the thermostat and wondering how you're going to pay your bills? If that is you, please do get in touch with us. We're going to use the older email, aren't we?
The gbviews@gbnews.com.
That's it, gbviews@gbnews.com. If you would like to come on air today and talk about that and talk about how you're feeling, do get in touch with us with your name, your number and where you are. And if you're happy to talk to us and what you'd like to say, one of our producers will get in touch with you, because we'd really like to hear that from you and hear about how you're feeling. So if that is you, gbviews@gbnews.com.
Yeah, because when you think about it, all morning we've been talking about you.
Yes.
But we'd love to hear from you.
From you.
I think.
Because it affects you.
Yes, and how you feel it is going to affect you. Because there's another thing today. Labour is reportedly planning to axe the 25% discount on council tax for single people. And this is becoming known as the widow's tax.
Well, it's after news that millions of pensioners will miss out on their winter fuel payments as the Chancellor looks to plug her £22 billion black hole in public spending.
Well, we're joined in the studio now by political commentator Theo Usherwood. What do you make of this so-called, certainly in the press, attack on pensioners?
So I think what Keir Starmer and Number 10 are trying to do is to realign away from pensioners. And if you go back to 2010, of course, they were in the coalition with David Cameron, Nick Clegg. Cameron, Osborne were very clear that they were going to protect pensioners on single incomes. It was their vote, of course, and that ran right through until this general election. What Keir Starmer is trying to do is to focus now on working people. There's a recognition there aren't enough resources to go around, and of course it is controversial. We've seen him scrap the winter fuel allowance, and that's going to affect around 10 million pensioners. And now they're looking at this single person's discount for council tax. So it affects around 8 million people who are able to apply for a 25% discount on their council tax. Now, half of those, around 4 to 5 million people, are pensioners because, of course, they've lost their spouses and they live alone and they're able to apply to their council. Now, for a Band D property, that accounts for around £534.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money. When you put that in with the winter fuel allowance, plus, of course, the decision by Ofgem to raise the minimum price cap, you're looking at pensioners being around £1,000 worse off as a result of this Labour government.
So why? Why are they doing it to pensioners? We heard it during the election campaign. They talked always about working people, as if pensioners have not been working people.
I think part of the problem is that this is something that has been presented before and it was spotted, and this time when we're talking about the winter fuel allowance, it wasn't spotted and it got through, and then they found themselves, Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer, in this position where they felt they couldn't do a U-turn. They probably should have done a U-turn, but that needed to happen very quickly, because if they don't do it quickly, then they end up looking weak and they look as if they're already, 2 months into their government, looking as if they're already having to make, U-turns on bad decisions. And I think that's why they probably haven't done it. Whether they go ahead with this cut to the single person's discount, we'll have to wait for the budget, but I think it is highly likely that they could well try to, as they try to balance the books, go for something like this. But I think they're also going to be looking at things like capital gains tax as well.
Yeah, they haven't ruled it out, have they yet? Just said wait till October. Suggests it might be likely. Can I ask you about Keir Starmer breaching parliamentary rules?
Yes.
So he's failed to declare that Lord Ali, he's a multi-millionaire businessman and party donor, has bought high-end clothes for his wife, Victoria. Now, this is awkward for Sir Keir Starmer, isn't it? Because he's been so vocal against Tory sleaze in the past.
And cronyism. And this goes back, of course, to the story where Lord Ali was given a AAA pass, all-access pass, to Downing Street, despite actually not having a role in Downing Street, and it came to light after Lord Ali had given thousands of pounds worth of free clothes to Keir Starmer, and of course his glasses. I think he needed more than £2,000 of glasses during the general election campaign, as well as his accommodation costs. I think when you look at the parliamentary register, where MPs have to make declarations, it only relates to the MP. So if you look at it, it's MP, how much have you claimed, what gifts have you been given? It doesn't relate to their partners, and that was oversight by Keir Starmer and his team. They didn't realise that there was a problem. There clearly is a problem, and he should have made that declaration. And now, as a result of further designers, the Sunday Times is reporting, looking at whether they can, Lady Starmer would like would like to wear their brands of clothing. Now they're suddenly in a position where they need to go back, and they have gone back and made these declarations, but they've made them too late, and they should have made them much sooner.
Theo, we just had some breaking news come in the past few moments. Just want to get your view on this. It's that several migrants have died off the coast of France while attempting to cross the Channel. This is what French media are reporting. It comes as French authorities rescued 200 people off the coast of Calais over a 24-hour period between Friday and Saturday night. All of those rescued were brought back to land, and French authorities have said they monitored 18 attempts to launch boats across the Channel on Saturday. But that news in the past few minutes that several migrants have died off the coast of France whilst attempting to cross the Channel.
It's a tragedy, but these until we can stop the boats leaving, and I think the government is looking at trying to prevent that happening by reaching some sort of agreement with the European Union countries to do a sort of joint agreement where actually even if you end up in France, then you can apply for asylum in this country to basically stop people making that perilous crossing across the Channel. We've had calmer weather over the last couple of days after some poor weather, and that's seen as an opportunity by these criminal gangs. Make no mistake about it, they are criminal gangs selling tickets, for around £2,500 a go to people to make that crossing. And these tragedies happen. And there was one only a couple of weeks ago where 12 migrants died, 6 children. I think there was one woman who was pregnant died in the Channel. And it just needs to stop, and the government needs to find a way of doing it very, very quickly.
How would you judge the government at the moment? I mean, clearly they feel they had a completely different way of attacking the problem than the last government. But of course, as you say, it's been the summer, it's been calmer weather. This was bound to happen in a way. But
Yes.
do we blame the government for not thinking of something different?
I think I was speaking to an expert who worked in the UK border force, who was saying that actually perhaps Keir Starmer had been too quick to get rid of the Rwanda scheme, that there was actually some merit in it. If you look between 2022 and 2023, there'd been a reduction of around a third in terms of number of migrants, down from just below 45,000 to just below 30,000 in terms of the number of migrant crossing the Channel. And actually there was some merit in it. We know the European Union had previously spoken to Rishi Sunak about trying to come to some sort of joint agreement when it comes to dealing with it. We still don't have somebody in charge of the Border Command, which was, of course, promised by Keir Starmer. This is going to be, it is, and it will continue to be a real problem for the Labour government until they find a solution to it. But I think the way they're trying to do it is to try and do it by cooperating with the European Union. And the problem with the Rwanda scheme is that inevitably there is a situation where, OK, the migrants say they're on the north coast of France, we don't want to come to the UK because there's a deterrent, and then they're making the crossing over to Ireland, to the south coast of Ireland, and they're finding another way.
We did also hear reports, didn't we, that at least the gangs were saying we're waiting for the result of the general election because we know that Keir Starmer will relax things and let us in.
And there was another former UK border force chief that I spoke to who said that they saw Keir Starmer as potentially being a soft touch. But I think what the difference in approach between what Keir Starmer is trying to do compared to what Rishi Sunak is trying to do is to find a solution by cooperating with the European Union. But there were warnings from the Conservatives before the election that if we enter into an agreement, then the number of migrants coming to this country could be as high as 100,000. Now, we simply don't know. But if they were to make that journey to the UK, it wouldn't be through by crossing the English Channel. So we wouldn't see tragedies like this, and it would be more safely managed. But of course, this is a very sensitive topic, especially for your listeners here.
It was the ruin of Rishi Sunak.
Yes, and it's been a very sensitive topic, and they would need to be, once they've made their application in the European Union, transported to the UK, they would then have the right to claim asylum, and those applications would have to be processed.
OK, Theo, we're out of time, I'm afraid, but thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
For all your thoughts. On the winter fuel payments, Hilary says, what a cruel analysis of pensioners and support for this appalling government. I have a job at 72 to supplement my pension, as I cannot live on the state pension alone. It only takes me to £15,000 a year, which still makes me the lowest income bracket, but outside of abject poverty. I am absolutely disgusted, says Hilary.
Well, do keep your comments coming in on that, because obviously it's today's big topic and it's not going to go away, is it?
Unfortunately.
No, in fact, it's going to hit over the winter, the very worst time.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Yeah, absolutely. Right, it's very nearly 8:15 now. Today marks Prince Harry's 40th birthday. Back in 1984, the Duke of Sussex was born in St Mary's Hospital in Paddington in London to King Charles, yes, Prince Charles then, and the late Princess Diana, of course.
In an 84-word statement ahead of his birthday, the Prince praised his two children, Archie and Lilibet, and spoke of the fresh perspective he's gained on life after becoming a father.
And today, the Prince will be celebrating his birthday at his Californian home with Meghan and lots of friends, I'm sure. Our royal reporter Cameron Walker has more on that.
Prince Harry turns 40. The once lovable party prince, now far more polarising. The King's youngest son's made some dramatic changes to his life, moving to California with his wife Meghan, quitting his lifelong royal role. He wanted financial and personal freedom, but lost his honorary military titles and patronages in the process. A bitter blow for a man with deeply personal connections to the armed forces. The Duke of Sussex is still not speaking to his brother, the Prince of Wales, and remains estranged from his father, the King.
Reports suggest that whilst Charles would be open to a return of some sort on the part of his son and daughter-in-law, William absolutely wouldn't be open to that.
The Prince served for 10 years in the British Armed Forces, including 2 tours of Afghanistan. In 2014, he founded the Invictus Games with the help of the foundation he shared at the time with Prince William and Catherine.
Sport has the ability to heal, to change lives and to save lives.
The Paralympic-style competition helps wounded, injured and sick veterans through sport and celebrated 10 years in May. The Prince also found the charity Centre Barley in 2006, which supports young people in southern Africa.
At the heart of Centre Barley, what we've always believed is that every single young person should have a chance at a better future.
Wellchild has him as patron, helping seriously ill young people in the UK.
It allows us to shine a spotlight on the resilience and positivity that they demonstrate every single day.
The expensive fairy tale marriage to Meghan Markle in 2018 has produced 2 children, Prince Archie, who's 5, and Princess Lilibet, who's 3. This week, Prince Harry told the BBC that becoming a father of 2 incredibly kind and funny kids has given me a fresh perspective on life, as well as sharpening my focus in all my work. But tensions remain, particularly with the British press, and his popularity has plummeted, having previously been one of the most popular members of the royal family. He's launched a number of legal battles against British newspaper publishers in recent years, going against the royals' never complain, never explain motto. Meanwhile, his legal battle with the Home Office over his UK security is said to have frustrated the King. Harry's expected to celebrate his 40th birthday with family and friends today, a time to reflect on the past and look to the future. Cameron Walker, GB News.
Well, we're joined now by royal commentator Jenny Bond. Morning, Jenny. What are your thoughts on Harry and his birthday today?
Hello, Anne. Hi. Well, I wish him a very, very happy birthday. That's what I do. I think that all this talk about him coming back either permanently or part-time into the royal fold, I mean, there's a poll in the Mail on Sunday today that suggests that some 30% of people want him back full-time as a royal and permanently. But, you know, you can do anything with polls, can't you? Because that means 60% actually don't want him or don't know. And the point is, I don't think he wants to come back either permanently to live here or to have a royal role. I think he's happy with the bed he has made. I don't think that he really expected his documentaries and his book to explode quite so viciously into the heart of the royal family and create the rift that it has. But I think that he is not looking for a way back because he's very happy. He's got the freedom he wanted. That's what he really wanted way before Meghan. He was uncomfortable with his royal life. He's got a beautiful wife. They appear to be very much in love. He's got his kids, whom he adores, and he always wanted kids. And he's got a very luxurious lifestyle. And today, being his birthday, he comes into several millions more courtesy of his great-grandmother, the Queen Mother, who set up a trust, and some of that money comes to him today. So happy birthday, Harry.
Harry, and it is a milestone birthday, isn't it? 40. He will be reflecting on the past 10 years especially. They have been tumultuous, haven't they? How do you think he feels about the relationships with his family, Jenny, and especially his dad and especially his brother? Because there's reports in the papers today that King Charles would like to see a relationship being repaired with his son, but it's the Prince of Wales, it's Prince William who says absolutely not.
Yes, I think you've got absolutely right, Ellie. That's it. I think the king, like any father, would like to see a reconciliation. I don't think he sees him coming back into royal duties, but he would like to see his son and his grandchildren and probably his daughter-in-law as well. But I don't really think that's going to happen anytime soon, given, we have to look at the evidence, don't we? Harry was over here only a short time ago for the funeral of his uncle. He was in the same room, the same church, and then the reception with William. They did not, as far as we know, acknowledge one another. They did not speak. He was only a couple of hours away from his father, or he could have flown to wherever his father was. I think it was at Balmoral at the time. Could easily have gone there, didn't. And we've seen this pattern several times now. So there is not going to be a reconciliation, particularly between William and Harry. Whether there's a reconciliation with the king, well, I hope so. I've always taken the view that, if you're the parent, you open your arms and you say, OK, you've been a very silly boy, but, let's hug. And we've seen just in the last few days that Charles quite likes a hug and make up. But that's not happening anytime soon, unfortunately.
That would be step number one, actually, wouldn't it, I suppose? If he and his father can mend some sort of bridges. And we do get the sense that the king would love that, of course. And as you said,
I think so.
Parents can be a bit more forgiving than an angry brother, but step one would be with the king, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I don't think there is going to be a step two. I think this rift with William is terminal. I mean, time can be a healer, but in this instance, I think it is simply ensconcing them in the positions they're in. And I don't think William has time in his life, with the problems he has, to think about his brother. I think he's just cast him out of his mind, cast him out of his life. And you have to think that when William is the king, those who carry out royal duties do them on behalf of the monarch. They are serving the monarch. And I don't think William would want Harry serving him, and I don't think Harry wants to serve William at any time.
No, exactly. To a certain extent, this obsession that we have with can he be welcomed back into the fold, it's a media thing, isn't it? We're obsessed. I'm not sure anyone else is that much. And as you said, Harry seems to be happy where he is. Oh, maybe I've got... What do you think?
You've hit the nail on the head, I think. I've been saying a little bit... I've been saying this week, absolutely, that it is us, the media, who are upset. We don't have to cover him. We don't have to call it a quasi-royal tour when he goes to a foreign country, to Colombia or Nigeria. He didn't invite the press. He actually actively did not invite the press. Just one or two reporters. And it isn't a royal tour, and we need to shut up about that. And we need to let him get on with his life and be positive about it. We don't need to pick apart everything they do, every look they give. I think we should cut them a bit of slack now. This is a new decade. I wish him well, and I hope he's really happy.
Yeah, OK. Absolutely. Jenny Bond, that's a nice note to leave it on.
It really
very
is.
Much, indeed.
Yes.
There you go, hit the nail on the head, Anne.
Well,
that
apparently, yeah. But I do think that sometimes everything's whipped up into a frenzy just for the sake of a good headline or something and a picture. And I think, why do we do it?
I don't know. See, I do think Prince Harry now does evoke really strong feeling in people.
Yeah. Yes, he does. But
and not just the media. I do think he does, rightly or wrongly.
Nina says Harry's a grown man and he made his choices, during which time he lied, he assaulted the royal family all for the gain of money-making.
Alessa says, despite Harry's horrible choices, I would like to wish him a very happy 40th birthday.
Yeah, I think I like the way she puts that.
Yeah.
He has made some horrible choices,
He has,
I think,
yeah.
but I suppose they're his choices.
And Alan says, Harry is estranged from the UK public. He's now running scared of a Trump victory because he could be booted out of the USA. How could Meghan cope coming back? Ban them ever returning, says Alan.
But I think, as Jenny said there, you don't have to ban them from returning. There's no sign that they actually want to.
No, no. I just think that the saddest thing out of all of this is the two brothers, because you think of their late mother, don't you?
Yeah.
And you do think if she was here,
she was here, she'd
knock
bang
their
their
heads
heads
together. She
together.
would, wouldn't she? And we probably wouldn't be in this predicament
Yeah.
if Princess Diana, late Princess Diana, was still with us.
I think for the sake of the king, because he's getting on a bit. I mean, and I think he's lovely. I really do. I never thought I'd ever say that.
Yeah, how lovely. I think we've seen a real cuddly side of King Charles, actually, quite literally, this week.
And you do get the feeling that he's a dad and he'd love to find a way to welcome Harry back. But Harry's not making it easy at the moment.
No, he's
Harry
not.
just needs to sort of make some sort of apology, doesn't he?
I mean, that would be a good place to start, wouldn't it? Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/you'll say.
Right now, 25 minutes past 8, time for the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got quite a mix in the weather for the second half of the weekend, some sunny spells and showers, but also some cloud and some outbreaks of rain. But there'll also be plenty of fine and dry, settled weather across the south of the country today. So after a cold start, things will be warming up across the south and southeast and plenty of dry weather and some sunny spells. Across northern parts of Wales and northern England, though, a cloudier day with some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. And across Scotland, plenty of sunny spells, but also blustery showers too. And these could be heavy with some hail and thunder mixed in there too. Now, as we head into the evening, that band of cloud and rain will still continue to slowly sink its way towards the southeast of the country. But across Scotland, well, we'll see those showers during the day. They will eventually ease away and become mainly confined to coastal areas. Across Northern Ireland, the Scottish borders and parts of northern England, we'll see some late evening sunny spells before the sun does go down. But plenty of clouds still across Wales, moving into the Midlands with still those outbreaks of rain and drizzle, and fairly cloudy to the south and southeast too. Now through into Sunday evening, we will eventually see that rain and drizzle to the south ease away, but there'll be plenty of cloud here. But across the northern areas, parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, we'll see a few more clear spells, much lighter winds too, so it is going to be turning quite cold here. May even see some isolated patches of mist and fog, particularly in rural areas. But to the south, that's where it's going to feel a little bit milder under those cloudier skies. Now for Monday, high pressure will begin to build across the country, which means plenty of fine, dry, settled conditions across the country. And where you catch the sunshine, it is going to be feeling rather pleasant and warm, particularly in those lighter winds. So generally highs of around 21 Celsius down in the southeast, but to the north, highs of 17, possibly 18 degrees.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now it's time for the Great British Giveaway and your chance to win a whopping £36,000 in tax-free cash. Here are all the details of how you can make that cash yours.
Luck. Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
With her novels Persuasion and Northanger Abbey both set in Bath, the city has taken to honouring their author each year with the Jane Austen Festival. Over 3,500 Austen fans flock to the city, many in their Regency finery and many coming from abroad. You can join the throng and follow the author along streets whose buildings look much the same as when she strolled past them over 200 years ago. Dating back to 2001, the festival is the world's largest and longest-running celebration of the Romance writer. Originally created by the Jane Austen Centre in Bath and running over the course of one weekend, 23 years on, it's grown into a 10-day festival with more than 80 events. And to tell us more, I'm delighted to be joined now by author and broadcaster Jenny Trent Hughes. Jenny, let's have a look at you. You look absolutely splendid. Well, welcome to GB News. Tell me a little bit about what you're wearing.
I'm wearing, well, usually I have a character called the Queen of All Hearts, and I have a fantastic outfit designed by Bath Theatrical. I was on the way up to you this morning. I was so excited I was going to meet you finally, and because of the trains, I didn't get to come. So I had to run back to my boat. I live on a boat, which is why the background is a bit odd, and I'm in a Regency outfit.
Well, look, I'm absolutely delighted that you have put the outfit on for us, because also someone was bringing a dress to you and her train was cancelled as well. So dressing up is obviously a big part of it. Have you any idea how many people dress up in order to participate?
Quite a few thousand.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. GB News royalty with your perfect start to the weekend. Lucky us. Feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions that raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return. And a few surprises along the way. Might be cold in this studio. That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've just realised I've been letting you do the auto cue the whole time. I'm so sorry. I'll take over now. We've been talking about the winter fuel cuts all morning and single-person council tax changes throughout the morning, haven't we?
We have, but how do pensioners who could be £1,000 worse off really feel about it?
Well, who better to ask than our guests this morning, who are both retired and were expecting help with their fuel bills until recently, of course.
So let us say good morning to retired water officer John O'Brien and retired entrepreneur Michael Decker. And I think they're both joining us now, are they? Because they've both got the same sort of experience. What do they think? OK, let's start with John O'Brien first. Morning, John. What's your experience of all of this, and what are your thoughts of, basically, you're not getting the winter allowance this year? Is that a shock, or can you bear it? No problems.
I can bear it personally. Family-wise, our resources allow us to bear it, but I think I'm probably in the lower percentage of people who are in that position. I think this hasn't been very scientifically arrived at. I think the cut-off point, they probably started with a figure that they wanted to achieve in savings and then decided where the cut-off point was going to be. There's going to be hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of pensioners who have been used to this in the last couple of years. They've been used to this augmenting their income. And it's very, very difficult if you suddenly remove that from people at very short notice, I have to say. Without an infrastructure to help people to understand how this is all going to work. It was in one of the papers the other day that there's almost 1 million people who don't claim some benefits to which they are entitled at the moment. That then rules them out under the new system of having this allowance at all. And for these, there's no infrastructure there to speak, for these people to speak to. A lot of them aren't even computer literate, people that live alone. There's all kinds of things. It's very easy to install something like that from government level, but to work it down to the actual people on the ground and give them the understanding of it and know how to move forward with it. A lot of people are going to suffer from this. And it's wrong. The basic principle of it, to take it away from people who are extremely rich, footballers and all of that type of stuff, that's fair enough. If they want to put it about with that, that's fine. That would be difficult to figure out where that level is, people who really, really don't need it. But the mass of the folk that are going to take this money away from are not in that position. They can be working class people that worked all their life. They might have bought their house, they might have bought their council house, they might have a private pension or whatever. If you take this allowance away from them, it's like a tax. They've worked hard all their lives, they've saved that money, maybe bought their house, whatever. You take that money away from them now, it's taxing them again on the money that they've taken the trouble to save up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Michael, let's move to you. I think this was going to be your first receiving of the winter fuel allowance, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And of course, this won't affect either of you two because you have decades to go before you hit pension age. But yes, I've just become a pensioner. So this would have been the first year that I got my 200 quid, but it's been snatched away from me at the last moment, just as I was about to buy a bucket full of Werther's Originals. But look, as a woke Tesla driving committed socialist, I am conflicted. On the one hand, I'm happy to see money taken from rich pensioners who don't need it and for it to go to the people more in need. But it is being taken from pensioners who struggle, as John says. And I suspect the money they're snatching back will go towards funding the wrong things, like more weaponry to send to other countries again. And I think that Keir Starmer, as usual, has hit an own goal. If he'd said, for example, that all the money taken from these rich pensioners was going directly into a fund for, say, insulating the homes of people that can't afford to, then I think it would have been less of a PR blunder. But by being his usual vague self, it just allows the Tories to say that he's taken money from pensioners and given it to the train drivers. And he just seems to lack any understanding of ordinary people and just demonstrates how the Labour Party has lost its way and just become Tory light.
Well, he should be watching the programme at the moment, shouldn't he? Because at least he'll have heard from two people who are affected, even though both of you say, you know, it's not going to impoverish you. You can get by, but you are proper people who are affected, as it were. Yeah. It's lovely to get your opinions. Thank you so much. That's John O'Brien and Michael Decker.
Thank you very much, both of you. Now, if this is something that really concerns you, if it does really worry you, thinking about how you're going to heat your home this winter, if you are a pensioner and you are worried about the winter fuel allowance, do get in touch with us. If you'd like to be on the programme, gbviews@gbnews.com is our old email address. Just need your name, your number and where you live. We'd love to talk to you about how you're feeling ahead of this winter. And if you'd like to comment and tell us how you're feeling, gbnews.com/you will say, that's our public forum. And we'd love to share as many of your views as we can this morning.
OK, sport next with Aidan.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. GB News royalty with your perfect start to the weekend. Lucky us! Feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions that raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return. And a few surprises along the way. Might be cold in this studio. That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9 only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Going through the sport now with Aidan McGee. Hi, Aidan.
Hello.
And it's a big day in the sporting world, isn't it?
Yeah, I've not mentioned the North London derby just yet. 2 o'clock this afternoon. The first litmus test, really, of where Arsenal are in their title challenge up against a side who haven't caused them too many problems in the last couple of years, but it's a derby, and that you don't really know what's going to happen. It's one of the most, we get these derbies, and Man United, Liverpool, Man City, Man United. They don't throw up as many stories as the North London derby does. There's always lots of goals.
What's the difference between a derby and a match?
A derby is when it's usually geographically based. So Arsenal and Spurs, as Ellie would know, is only 3 miles apart. So there's a local rivalry there. If you grow up in Essex or if you grow up in South Hertfordshire, you'll probably come across people who support both clubs.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be geographical. I mean, for example, Norwich and Ipswich are 50 miles apart. Crystal Palace and Brighton are 54 miles apart.
Well,
so
they're still a derby.
It's still a derby because they just don't like each other. So that's all you need.
It's like a historic rivalry.
It is, yeah. It's respect for tradition. It's a good question, actually, because it's one of those things that you'd never be...
I'm getting all the compliments today, Anne.
Thank you very much.
No, it's great. But no, that's 2 o'clock this afternoon. Arsenal got some serious problems because Martin Odegaard, their midfielder, is injured. He got injured on international duty against Austria, and Declan Rice is injured. So it could be a chance for someone like Raheem Sterling to come in to make his debut for his first start for Arsenal. His manager's been talking up his chances this week, and Mikel Arteta signed a new contract this week as well. And Arsenal have been told they can't wear their traditional red shirt as well, the red kit at Tottenham. I never, ever remember these two playing each other without Tottenham wearing white and navy blue. Actually, no, they've worn white socks actually on certain years, but they can't wear red because there's a clash. There's some white piping on the kit, which they think might interfere with the referee's line of vision in terms of decide on VAR particularly. They deciding on tight offside calls, and sometimes the white can blur with the white. These decisions are made about a week in advance these days because they don't want. I've been at matches before where the kit man's turned up with the wrong kit.
What are their secondary colours then?
Well, it's controversially, it's kind of a Palestinian kind of colour. It's black with red, green, and white, so they have to wear that, and it's not going to look right.
No.
And so it's going to be a psychological advantage for Tottenham as well, because it's got Arsenal's backup. It's got their backup, but without doubt, the supporters don't like it. They want to see their team wearing traditional red when they go to Tottenham, and Tottenham fans are no different. When they go to Arsenal, they want to see their team playing in white with navy shorts.
Another reason to get rid of the VAR, then, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, possibly. But I've been at games before where the kit man's turned up with the wrong kit. The referee said that's going to be a clash, and they've had to wear the away colours of the home kit, the home team. And the kit man only has one job as well, so it's quite embarrassing when he falls foul.
Yeah, no, he should definitely bring spares.
I want to touch on the F1 as well, because Lando Norris is right down in 17th, having had a wretched qualifying yesterday. A few yellow flags. He's going to start on 16th because somebody above him has been disqualified. But again, he's chasing a 62-point lead to Max Verstappen, who starts on 6th. So we're just waiting really until Lewis Hamilton joins Ferrari next year to see if he can make more of a fight of it. I just don't think necessarily when you've been out of the picture for 3 years, you've not been competing since that almighty tussle in 2021. Can you just switch it on because you've got a new car and suddenly be competitive again at the age of 39? I don't know. Not sure. Maybe Harry can tell us about what it's like turning 50 and whether you can still maintain all your grace.
Well, Yes, you can.
Aidan McGee, thank you very much.
Good to see you all this weekend.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do stay with us. We're going to be going through the papers next, and we're going to be talking about that screen-free school. A huge waiting list for it, apparently. We'll be talking about that next.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
So, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, are non-crime hate incidents a breach of your human rights?
It's crazy, isn't it? Freedom of speech is now on life support here, and we've had, in the last week alone, we've had Elon Musk being threatened. He's now out of Brazil with X. We've had the founder of Telegram basically being arrested, and he's been charged in France. We're not quite sure the circumstances why he was there, whether Macron invited him to the Olympics or whatever, but he's been arrested under several charges. And we've had all sorts of people who've been speaking out are basically being shut down. So it has to be freedom of thought. It has to be freedom of expression. It's one of our fundamental rights under the Human Rights Act of 1998. Article 10 gives you the right to express your opinion and also to air that publicly.
It's basically, I say something that somebody doesn't like, so probably one of my monologues. Then somebody can then inform the police that I've upset them in some way. And then that goes on my record, so I now have a criminal record.
Yes.
Because somebody else who I've never met, who's never met me, has heard something that upset or hurt your feelings. Then if I go for a certain job or I go for my DBS check, which I do regularly because I go and talk in schools, somebody could pull that up and go, well, you did something that had hurty feelings, and so now you can't have that job. That has got to be a breach of my human rights.
Oh, absolutely. Article 10, it's a fundamental right to protect your freedom of speech and so on and so forth. And this is what's really worrying, because it's happening around the world, as I say, in Brazil, in France, in various other countries. In America, you know, Zuckerberg, he came out in the last few days and said the pressure that he was put under by the Biden administration, first of all about COVID, and even jokes he was told to suppress them. The other thing that he was saying about the Hunter Biden laptop. And he said he couldn't speak about that because they were telling him not to. And what he did, he had to fact check, and he turned around and said he regretted that, because the reality is you're working on that sort of basis.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Queer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. Oh, no, you didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Agreed. We're going to go through the papers now with Tom Slater and Scarlett Maguire. Good to see you both this morning. And Scarlett, let's talk about this screen-free school, shall we?
So this is a school in Cambridge, which I believe is called the Heritage School, which was set up in 2007, wanting a different type of education. A screen-free school. So it's not just no mobile phones, it's no internet, no laptops, no interactive whiteboards, all books, pens and papers. It's obviously a private school. Needless to say, because it's in Cambridge, there are some techie people who send their children there. I wouldn't send my child there. I mean, I absolutely agree about that it's about phones, right? But actually, you know, there is the Ormiston Academy, group of academy, which has got 42 state schools, are banning phones. But I think not to be taught on laptops, on iPhones, on iPads, no interactive. I mean, this is the real world. And it's fine for them to say, you know, oh, but our kids will be fine. Yeah, and I bet you they have to do a lot in the evenings.
Yes, I thought it was going to be a phone-free school, which is fair enough.
but an internet-free school
is weird.
But also,
Bit
doesn't it
overcorrection.
say something that some of the parents at this school are tech giants themselves? They work within the industry, but they don't want their children anywhere near it.
That is kind of interesting.
pretty telling, isn't it?
And you've had a lot of people from the big tech companies who have come out and issued these almost mea culpas in recent years about whether it's social media and how that's preoccupying young people and adults, we should say. I also think that a lot of the concerns about young people and phones or the internet and so on is often a case of adults projecting, because a lot of adults know they spend too much time, and a lot of adults know that it's probably not the best use of their time and it doesn't leave them feeling particularly fulfilled. And while there's obviously a problem with the fact that your average 13-year-old should have something in their pocket, which means they can access almost anything on the internet, is obviously a bad idea. And I think we're now starting to see a cultural norm sort of shift in the other direction, away from kids being on their phones all the time, more and more schools banning them. But the idea that, therefore, all technology is out is obviously a bit of an overcorrection.
It's odd, isn't it? My boys used to go to school with another family, lovely family, but they didn't have television at home. So their kids used to come around to mine all the time. They used to actually knock on the front door and say, Mrs. Diamond, can we come and watch The Simpsons?
Oh.
It was so funny because and these parents were very sort of, we don't allow television in our house. But I thought, but it's in mine, and they're always round watching.
Children will always find a way.
Yeah.
But also, it's about real life.
Yes, real
and
life.
actually, what it means is that you can then end up having children who are obsessed with television because they didn't get it.
Yeah.
And the thing about the phones, so there's a school in Worcestershire that banned mobile phones quite a long time ago, and it's sort of in the middle of the country. And they're really sensible. What they say is, of course, children should be able to have phones on the way and on the way back, because things can go wrong. They need to get hold of their parents. But as soon as they come into school, they put them in a box, and they're not allowed to have them back until afterwards. Yeah. And actually, what they say is the children play with each other, and other people come and go, oh, these are rather immature children. And they go, no, they just understand about play. But they're not being deprived of anything real.
I mean, I don't think these kids will be deprived of anything either if their parents are spending 10 to 16 grand a year on their education. So I don't think they'd have trouble competing in the workplace.
I think you're right in that this is all a reflection of the parents.
Yes.
Yes. It's not about what's best for the children, almost. It's about how the parents feel about maybe a sense of guilt.
What do you think about Brianna Jai's mother, who is campaigning now for a smartphone for under 16s, which only gives you access to safe things, certain things, so you don't have access to the likes of pornography and the dark web and all that sort of thing on your mobile phone?
I mean, actually, you can't do that. It's one or the other. So what you need then is these old-fashioned, which have come back on the market, brick phones that a lot of children are being given. I mean, one of my neighbours, I mean, they are not giving their children mobile phones. I mean, they live in London, so you don't need this big travel. But they're not doing it until they're quite a lot older. I mean, I think they should probably give them brick phones. Yeah. But that's... I mean, I think that Brianna... I think that doesn't work, where actually the brick phones, which you can now buy... and Barbie has brought out a pink one.
Yes.
Clever move.
Very clever move, yes. What do you think, Tom?
No, I think it's one of those things where if you've got a phone that has access to the internet full stop, kids will find a way around those filters, kids will find a way around those restrictions. So, no, I'm a big supporter of the brick phones, maybe for nostalgic reasons, because that's what was coming in when I was about that age. But, I don't understand why the kids are walking around with hundreds of pounds worth of kit in their pocket. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me on any level, really, aside from all the bad consequences for their mental health.
Who's the little actress who was in E.T. Phone Home? She was the little girl. She is now, obviously...
Drew Barrymore.
Drew Barrymore. She has been campaigning.
She has.
For what they call in America dumb phones, which are phones that just do the very basic communication.
But you don't need anything else, do you, apart from your parents' phone number, really? That's what you need.
And she's been talking to Apple because she is who she is. She was able to access. And she's been talking to Apple about bringing a very trendy, a phone that the kids would actually like, but is what she calls a dumb phone.
Yes.
It just does the very basic.
And I think that's what the Barbie phone is it's trying to appeal.
Yeah, which is a good idea.
It's this hot pink flip phone.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
That's just got
text
and calls, I
think it's a great idea. And you can have...
One of the producers here has it, and she says her life has improved no end. Just being able to text and call. Yep, she loves it.
On that note, we've come to the end of this hour as well, so thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Telling us all about the papers. Here, though, is the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got quite a mix in the weather for the second half of the weekend, some sunny spells and showers, but also some cloud and some outbreaks of rain. But there'll also be plenty of fine and dry, settled weather across the south of the country today. So after a cold start, things will be warming up across the south and southeast and plenty of dry weather and some sunny spells. Across northern parts of Wales and northern England, though, a cloudier day with some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. And across Scotland, plenty of sunny spells, but also blustery showers too. And these could be heavy with some hail and thunder mixed in there too. Now, as we head into the evening, that band of cloud and rain will still continue to slowly sink its way towards the southeast of the country. But across Scotland, well, we'll see those showers during the day. They will eventually ease away and become mainly confined to coastal areas. Across Northern Ireland, the Scottish borders and parts of northern England, we'll see some late evening sunny spells before the sun does go down. But plenty of clouds still across Wales, moving into the Midlands with still those outbreaks of rain and drizzle, and fairly cloudy to the south and southeast too. Now through into Sunday evening, we will eventually see that rain and drizzle to the south ease away, but there'll be plenty of cloud here. But across the northern areas, parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, we'll see a few more clear spells, much lighter winds too, so it is going to be turning quite cold here. May even see some isolated patches of mist and fog, particularly in rural areas. But to the south, that's where it's going to feel a little bit milder under those cloudier skies. Now for Monday, high pressure will begin to build across the country, which means plenty of fine, dry, settled conditions across the country. And where you catch the sunshine, it is going to be feeling rather pleasant and warm, particularly in those lighter winds. So generally highs of around 21 Celsius down in the southeast, but to the north, highs of 17, possibly 18 degrees.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Let's have a look at this story in the Telegraph, Charlie. And this is about Anglican Church, the Church of England, dropping the word church in favour of something a bit more modern sounding. Words such as community. Why are we afraid of the word church?
Well, that's my question. I mean, you've got to assume that they think it solves some kind of problem. But I think, you know, there are a lot of people who feel very strongly about their particular religious institution, whatever they all have different names, don't they? And if you rename one, do you have to rename all of them? Can we no longer use an individual name for different religions' community buildings?
Are you religious?
I'm spiritual.
You sound like him. Yeah.
No, certainly.
Oh, don't get Ellie started on me.
Do I believe in a god? Yes. Do I believe in any of the particular gods that are offered to us? Still undecided.
I'm like you. I said exactly that.
You two are the same. You two are exactly
What about you, Anna? Are you particularly religious?
Well, I'm not a proper religious. I wouldn't name myself as a religious, but I really do respect religions. And we have bigger problems to think about.
Is it a sign of where we're at in this secular society?
Yes.
We're moving more and more towards that. The Anglican Church feels that the only way to be relevant is to take away any reference to church going, to being religious.
I think if the substance of what you're offering is good, it doesn't matter what it's called. You know, so if people are going to find solace and peace and a place that makes them feel better, they're not going to care too much about what it's called. So I think relabeling it, rebranding it, I don't know, maybe it'll help, maybe it won't, but it's going to certainly upset a lot of people, I should think.
And people whose religion is important to them and kind of central to their lives, you can imagine.
Absolutely.
There's a reason Justin Welby is nicknamed by some quarters the Archbishop of Woke. Maybe this adds fuel to the fire, who knows?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. Up to 8 migrants are feared dead after attempting to cross the Channel last night.
A small boat thought to be carrying around 50 people ran into trouble. That's just 2 weeks after 12 people tragically died undertaking that treacherous journey.
In other news, pensioners could be left £1,000 worse off this winter as ministers consider axing the single person's 25% discount on council tax. It's been branded the widow's tax.
The government also forced to defend their early prison release scheme after a man allegedly sexually assaulted a woman on the same day as he was freed.
The Lib Dem conference continues in Brighton today with calls to extend free school meals to all children living in poverty. Education spokesperson Munira Wilson will be with us shortly explaining more.
Happy birthday to Prince Harry, who turns the big 4-0 today. We reflect on his achievements and look ahead to what the next decade might bring for the Duke of Sussex.
And have you noticed it's cold?
Yes.
It's well and truly autumn, suddenly. Well, all hope is not lost because the Met Office is saying that temperatures might actually rise again this week.
Hello, good morning. Well, we have some heavy showers in the forecast and also some longer spells of rain. But there's also some dry and settled weather around with some warm, sunny spells. So if you want to find out where, stay tuned for all your latest details.
Well, it's just gone 9 o'clock. A very good morning to you. I'm Anne Diamond.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast. Lots of you getting in touch this morning on various stories that we've been touching on this morning. On Sir Keir Starmer, Robert says, Sir Keir Starmer's family gifts is a much bigger scandal than Boris eating cake in Downing Street on his birthday.
Yeah, it was during a lockdown as well, though, wasn't it? It wasn't just his birthday.
Yeah.
When we were all being told to stay in and not fraternise with each other. There was a definite fraternising going on inside Number 10. That was the scandal, wasn't it? And a lot of people getting in touch about, well, obviously the winter fuel allowance and the council tax discount possibly being removed. Adrian says, I live on my own. Why should they remove the 25% discount for council tax, where I would pay the same amount as, say, 4 people living in a house?
Maria says council tax is unfair. Why should a single person pay virtually the same as a household where everyone is earning and they only pay 25% more than a single person? It's absolutely ridiculous. All people who earn and can contribute should. It shouldn't be based on a person's home.
Well, no, I mean, we've always acknowledged, haven't we, that council tax serves some people really badly. But whenever they've tried to tinker with it or change it, that hasn't worked either.
It's difficult, isn't it? And on winter fuel payments, Eunice says, how much more will it cost to keep a pensioner in hospital for, say, 3 days to treat them for hypothermia than it would be to give them the winter fuel allowance? Yeah, it is £200, £300 a year, isn't
yes,
it?
Yes, it is. And back to that breaking news that we've been learning this morning about what happened overnight, really. It's feared that up to 8 migrants have died after their small boat got into trouble trying to cross the channel last night. It's believed the vessel was carrying up to 50 people. This year alone now, more than 30 people have died in the channel.
Well, we're now joined in the studio by political commentator Theo Usherwood. Very good morning to you, Theo. And let's reflect that breaking news, shall we, on those 8 people who have died after their small boat got into trouble.
Yes, of course, and it comes after 12 obviously died in the Channel on September the 3rd, including 6 children and 1 woman who was pregnant. This is, in terms of deaths, the number now is 45 who have died in the Channel this year. That's the worst since 2021. We've had 21,000 crossings, so it's looking like we're probably going to surpass, of course, this is weather dependent, the total of number of crossings from last year. The problem is not going away for Keir Starmer's government. We don't yet have a border commander appointed, and he said that the Prime Minister said he was going to do that, and he's decided to scrap the Rwanda scheme. I think longer term, what the government would like to do is enter into some sort of cooperation agreement with the European Union so that wherever migrants are stopped in Europe, whether they've come from outside of the European Union, they then are able to make an application, and then whether it's on a GDP per capita basis, they are transferred to countries around the European Union. And of course, that would include the UK, even though we're outside of the European Union, because it'd be a new agreement. And then that would take away any incentive for people to pay criminal gangs. And we're talking, upwards of £2,500 to cross the Channel. And hopefully that, the plan would stop the crossings from taking place and these absolutely tragic, horrific consequences.
Yes, the problem for Keir Starmer is that I mean, he immediately shelved all the Tories' ideas, and his idea is to talk to the other authorities and try and get some sort of system going. But of course, that takes time. So these deaths, in a way, were inevitable.
Yes, and it will. You know, we had, we had 12 earlier on September the 3rd. We've got another 8, and you have these gangs who are, the more people that they can get into a dinghy, the more money that they make, and of course the cost of getting one dinghy across, whether you have one person in or 50 people in it, is effectively the same. And so the incentive is always to put more and more people into these dinghies to the point at which they're essentially rubber rafts. They can't cope, and they're profiteering to huge, making tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds from this, this vile trade in misery, in the hope that people will pay it because they want to come to this country in search of a better life.
Do the guys in charge of the whole thing, the gangsters that we're talking about, gang members, do they actually get in the dinghies themselves? Do we know? I mean, do they ever die?
So they employ people to bring the dinghies across, and then they're making so much money that the dinghies are just left on the coast because they don't even need to worry about trying to return them back to France for the crossings. But the people ultimately making these are organised criminals.
Yeah.
They employ people to make the transport, to make the journeys, but these are organised criminals and organised gangs, and Keir Starmer has to get a grip on this really quickly, not least for those who are losing their lives.
But this is the issue, isn't it? Because Labour's plan, which is to smash the gangs, which is very vague, and dealing with the EU on some sort of joint task force, these things don't happen quickly, do they? And in the meantime, we are going to see death after death in the Channel.
You're quite right to say that. Yes, these things are going to take time. Agreements are, they're not put in place immediately. And of course, we're outside of the EU. I'm not advocating for one moment that we rejoin the EU, but there has to be a separate agreement to come to some sort of understanding where actually the French are going to stop these gangsters from operating the way they are. Now, what would effectively happen, and this is where it becomes particularly toxic and difficult for Keir Starmer, is that actually if we were to enter into an agreement with the EU and you were to have asylum, migrants travel to this country for their claims to be processed, you're looking at up to around 100,000, which is 2, 3, 4 times as many as who are currently making the crossings when in these boats across the Channel. And that's where it becomes difficult. Now, that's on a basis of, the size of this country, the wealth of this country. Lots of factors are taken into account when deciding how many migrants we would take, but that's where it becomes very difficult for Keir Starmer, because those migrants would have to be housed, fed, clothed,
while they're being processed.
while their claims are being processed.
As we've heard, they can just disappear into society, can't they?
Well, then it becomes even more difficult because, of course, we don't have an ID card system. There are those who advocate the ID card system, but I was speaking to somebody who knows France very well, and actually they have a much better way of being able to track people, because if you don't have an ID card, then they can bring you right back into the system. You get stopped, and that's something that, again, in this country, I don't think we're ready for, or that people particularly want.
Is the answer then to process these people in France before they actually leave?
Yes, but that's we don't have that. You could say that, but then that's asking something of the French, isn't it? And the French, why would they want to? Why would they want to? What's in it for them? And that's why it becomes so difficult, because you have to remember, Emmanuel Macron, the French president, is under huge amount of pressure from the right in his own country, Marine Le Pen's National Rally, and he's got no incentive of doing us a favour, the British a favour, by simply saying, OK, we're going to deal with this problem within France.
No, it would only benefit Great Britain, wouldn't it? It wouldn't benefit France at all. And they've got their own immigrant problems, haven't they? They've got so many borders.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Theo, thanks very much indeed. Thank you. And it's sad that we have had to have that news again overnight. And there are lots of other things to talk about too, aren't there, in the world of politics, which means it's time to talk to Camilla Tominey. Let's go across now to Westminster, and Camilla can tell us about what's in the show.
Hi there. Well, lovely to see you both this morning, and to Theo. Fun-packed show as ever coming up. We've got an absolutely packed 90 minutes because we're going to be discussing all of the Labour's problems and particularly the criticisms that have been made in the Sunday Times today about Keir Starmer getting Lord Ali to pay for fancy frocks for his wife Victoria. I'm going to be putting that to Nick Thomas Simmons. He's the Paymaster General, so he's at the Treasury. He can also comment, I hope, on the winter fuel allowance cut, how that's going to affect pensioners. There's also been a story in the week about the Chancellor Rachel Reeves claiming back, as many MPs do, the fuel bill on her second home. Is that right, to be taking fuel payments away from pensioners while at the same time allowing MPs who are earning as much as the Chancellor, that's £160,000 a year, to have rebates on their own energy bills? I'll be putting that to him. Also, we've got a good smattering of Tories today because we've got Tom Tugendhat coming into the studio to discuss his leadership bid. To be fair, he is the outsider now. He came fourth in that final ballot of MPs at Westminster. That then moves to conference in a couple of weeks' time to narrow those 4 down to 2 to put before the membership. So we'll be asking him whether suspicions that he's a bit too wet to win are right. He can be hawkish on China and foreign affairs, but he did vote for Remain. I'm going to be asking him if he regrets that now that he's come out in support of leaving the ECHR. Also going to be speaking to Sir Graham Brady. He's just published a sensational book called Kingmaker. It's been serialised in the Telegraph this weekend. And basically he's lifting the lid on prime ministerial secrets. Sir Graham, as the former chairman of the 1922 Committee of Backbench Tories, is the person who kept all of those letters of no confidence hidden away in his safe. But there's an extraordinary revelation at the end of this book that basically Rishi Sunak only ever had 10 letters of no confidence against him, which begs the question, why on earth did he call that early election? So we'll be speaking to them. Also got Kevin Hollingrake in the studio. I think he's going to have a go at Labour. And we'll be speaking to Simon Mail, who's a former Chief of Defence Staff, about his new book. So lots to go at from 9:30.
Yeah, brilliant programme. Camilla, thanks very much indeed. And now it's time for the Great British Giveaway, your chance to win the equivalent of having an extra £3,000 in your bank account every month for a whole year. It's a whopping £36,000 in tax-free cash. That's the prize. Here are all the details you'll need for a chance to make it yours.
You could be the next Great British Giveaway. And good luck.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
EasyJet is launching a new recruitment drive focused on attracting cabin crew members over 50 and those even considering retirement.
Well, the initiative is called Returnships and is inspired by research that suggests that 75% of people over 50 years old believe that now is the ideal time to embark on a new career.
Joining us now to discuss what it takes to embark on a second career as cabin crew is Helen Williams. Good morning, Helen.
Hi, good morning, Helen.
Welcome. Just touching down in our studio.
It is. I've had a few days off and now I'm here.
So you are now cabin crew.
I am.
What inspired you to get into it? What did you do before? How did it all come around?
Oh, so when I graduated, I took an office job with my grad scheme, and that job lasted 6 months, and I started working for a European carrier. I did just over 5 years at that European carrier and had an absolutely fabulous time. I then went on to a wet lease operation with an Irish carrier and another mainline UK carrier. I then decided to have time out. I had a business, I had a family, I had children, and last autumn I decided, why not? Let's go back and do it all again. So returning to that European carrier that I'd worked at when I was in my early 20s.
And what is that like for you now, returning that bit older, having that life experience, having your children? Do you think that's been a benefit to you?
It's absolutely been a benefit. I mean, the amount of parents that thank me for helping me with their small children when they're crying on a flight. I am that person now.
When you went back for a second time, did you notice more sort of older people amongst your sort of colleagues?
I did. So when I returned onto my initial course in March of this year, just over half the course were over the age of 30.
Wow.
Which was absolutely phenomenal. And I was expecting to return and be with a lot of younger, 18, 19, 24. I was expecting to be that dinosaur. And that first day of training, to find out that I wasn't the dinosaur, you have no idea how exciting that was. And they've gone on, that particular group, to be phenomenal crew members.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
That was an interesting effect. Did you get that at home? Slightly weird.
A bit wavy.
Yeah,
yes, very good.
Anyway, happy birthday it is today to Prince Harry. He has turned 40. Wow.
Yes. The Duke of Sussex has expressed his excitement about entering his 4th decade and spoke of how fatherhood has granted him a fresh perspective on life.
Well, earlier on the programme we heard from royal commentator Jenny Bond. This is what she had to say.
I think that all this talk about him coming back either permanently or part-time into the royal fold, I mean, there's a poll in the Mail on Sunday today that suggests that some 30% of people questioned want him back full-time as a royal and permanently. But, you know, you can do anything with polls, can't you? Because that means 60% actually don't want him or don't know. And the point is, I don't think he wants to come back either permanently to live here or to have a royal role. I think he's happy with the bed he has made. I don't think that he really expected his documentaries and his book to explode quite so viciously into the heart of the royal family and create the rift that it has. But I think that he is not looking for a way back because he's very happy. He's got the freedom he wanted. That's what he really wanted way before Meghan. He was uncomfortable with his royal life. He's got a beautiful wife. They appear to be very much in love. He's got his kids, whom he adores, and he always wanted kids. And he's got a very luxurious lifestyle. And today, being his birthday, he comes into several millions more courtesy of his great-grandmother, the Queen Mother, who set up a trust. And some of that money comes to him today. So happy birthday, Harry.
Harry, and it is a milestone birthday, isn't it? 40. He will be reflecting on the past 10 years especially. They have been tumultuous, haven't they? How do you think he feels about the relationships with his family, Jenny, and especially his dad and especially his brother? Because there's reports in the papers today that King Charles would like to see a relationship being repaired with his son, but it's the Prince of Wales, it's Prince William who says absolutely not.
Yes, I think you've got absolutely right, Ellie. That's it. I think the king, like any father, would like to see a reconciliation. I don't think he sees him coming back into royal duties, but he would like to see his son and his grandchildren and probably his daughter-in-law as well.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, we've been looking at your views all morning and your very entrenched views about the fact that Harry's made his bed and he should lie in it. But you have to point out, as Jenny was doing, that there's no real indication that he wants to come back and live here. I think it's us sort of wishing something on him. And they've done a big poll about it in today's Mail on Sunday, and they say there's a big rise in support for the idea of Harry returning to royal duties. And you do wonder whether there might be a way that he could be returned in some form to royal duty, but not in Britain. You know, maybe to be like some sort of position out there in the Commonwealth, I don't know. Because you always have to remember that one day Prince William will be king and might not want his brother active.
Well, reports in the papers earlier on this week that Prince William's coronation plans, because of course they're already being made, as these things are, currently doesn't include Prince Harry. He wouldn't even be invited. That's how bad things are between the brothers.
Yeah, which is a shame, because when you look back, he did play a very important part. Should we have a look back now at Harry's life in the spotlight with GB News' royal correspondent, Cameron Walker.
Prince Harry turns 40. The once lovable party prince, now far more polarising. The King's youngest son's made some dramatic changes to his life, moving to California with his wife Meghan, quitting his lifelong royal role. He wanted financial and personal freedom, but lost his honorary military titles and patronages in the process. A bitter blow for a man with deeply personal connections to the armed forces. The Duke of Sussex is still not speaking to his brother, the Prince of Wales, and remains estranged from his father, the King.
Reports suggest that whilst Charles would be open to a return of some sort on the part of his son and daughter-in-law, William absolutely wouldn't be open to that.
The Prince served for 10 years in the British Armed Forces, including 2 tours of Afghanistan. In 2014, he founded the Invictus Games with the help of the foundation he shared at the time with Prince William and Catherine.
Sport has the ability to heal, to change lives and to save lives.
The Paralympic-style competition helps wounded, injured and sick veterans through sport and celebrated 10 years in May. The Prince also found the charity Centre Barley in 2006, which supports young people in southern Africa.
At the heart of Centre Barley, what we've always believed is that every single young person should have a chance at a better future.
Wellchild has him as patron, helping seriously ill young people in the UK.
It allows us to shine a spotlight on the resilience and positivity that they demonstrate every single day.
The expensive fairy tale marriage to Meghan Markle in 2018 has produced 2 children, Prince Archie, who's 5, and Princess Lilibet, who's 3. This week, Prince Harry told the BBC that becoming a father of 2 incredibly kind and funny kids has given me a fresh perspective on life, as well as sharpening my focus in all my work. But tensions remain, particularly with the British press, and his popularity has plummeted, having previously been one of the most popular members of the royal family. He's launched a number of legal battles against British newspaper publishers in recent years, going against the royals' never complain, never explain motto. Meanwhile, his legal battle with the Home Office over his UK security is said to have frustrated the King. Harry's expected to celebrate his 40th birthday with family and friends today, a time to reflect on the past and look to the future. Cameron Walker, GB News.
And there we are. It's interesting that Sarah Vine, for instance, the columnist in the Mail, has wished Harry a happy 40th. But she's interesting in her reflections. She said, "While I despair of his methods and actions, part of me understands why he wanted to leave. And though many sought to blame Meghan, I don't believe it was ever really about her. It was about Harry and his damaged relationship with his family and his desire to break his own generational curse." And you said when you read Spare...
That's what strikes you.
He feels it's almost his legacy, his inheritance, to feel a bit like he feels his mother felt, that estranged from the royal family. The one thing Princess Diana never did, though, she never dissed the royal family.
No.
She never said anything. And it's because she, as a mother, recognised that William, her son, was going to be king one day.
Yeah, and she respected that.
Yeah, she did.
But he very much feels, and it comes across in Spare, that he's the black sheep of the family. His mother was the black sheep of the family, and he believes that if she'd have stayed alive, she would have moved to the United States. So he very much sees that this is just history repeating itself. A generational curse, if you like.
Sarah Vine says in the Mail, his decision not to update his autobiography, Spare, was a step in the right direction, but he's got a long way to go. She says, "Harry, I wish you the happiest of birthdays. May it mark the start of a new and more positive chapter in your life."
I've just seen the royal family have tweeted, or on X, wishing the Duke of Sussex a very happy 40th birthday today. So that's a message from the King, at least.
Here's the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got quite a mix in the weather for the second half of the weekend, some sunny spells and showers, but also some cloud and some outbreaks of rain. But there'll also be plenty of fine and dry, settled weather across the south of the country today. So after a cold start, things will be warming up across the south and southeast and plenty of dry weather and some sunny spells. Across northern parts of Wales and northern England, though, a cloudier day with some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. And across Scotland, plenty of sunny spells, but also blustery showers too. And these could be heavy with some hail and thunder mixed in there too. Now, as we head into the evening, that band of cloud and rain will still continue to slowly sink its way towards the southeast of the country. But across Scotland, where we'll see those showers during the day, they will eventually ease away and become mainly confined to coastal areas. Across Northern Ireland, the Scottish borders and parts of northern England, we'll see some late evening sunny spells before the sun does go down. But plenty of clouds still across Wales, moving into the Midlands with still those outbreaks of rain and drizzle, and fairly cloudy to the south and southeast too. Now through into Sunday evening, we will eventually see that rain and drizzle to the south ease away, but there'll be plenty of cloud here. But across the northern areas, parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, we'll see a few more clear spells, much lighter winds too, so it is going to be turning quite cold here. May even see some isolated patches of mist and fog, particularly in rural areas. But to the south, that's where it's going to feel a little bit milder under those cloudier skies. Now for Monday, high pressure will begin to build across the country, which means plenty of fine, dry, settled conditions across the country. And where you catch the sunshine, it is going to be feeling rather pleasant and warm, particularly in those lighter winds. So generally highs of around 21 Celsius down in the southeast, but to the north, highs of 17, possibly 18 degrees.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I'm Isabel Webster. Thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
But let's get stuck in. Prince Harry, he's consulted former aides about a possible partial return to the UK as he seeks to repair his public image, that is according to the Daily Mail.
Who wants him? I'm sorry. This is, of course, he's got his book Spare. The paperback comes out later this year. Now, he's not updating it, but he'll want